But hopefully it gets normalized. And I don't just mean this for streamers, I mean this for humanity. It gets normalized that someone can say, hey, by the way, that's actually just not correct, and or your take might be misguided. It comes from a place of wanting to help. So hey, here's a little bit of information, we can take it in, better ourselves, we can grow, and at the same time we won't shame any single person who's had a bad take in the past for whatever reason, because everyone has had bad takes. No one is above the bad take fray. Everyone has made bad takes and everyone will have bad takes. I know people, we joked about this before, is there a perfect take person where they've been infinitely flawless? You know, one single person. I'll wait. Everybody, we're going to watch a controversial video by one Noah Samson. The topic of the video is solving the debate bro problem. There's been a long-standing debate between two different groups, streamers and video essayists. As someone who has his finger in both pies, yes, I do both. I started out as a video essayist and now I stream, but I still like making video essays. In fact, I love editing and I like making them, and I enjoy a little bit of pageantry every now and then, so it'll be hard for me, I guess, to pick a side on this. I also do quite enjoy Noah Samson. I find him to be very funny. I've had him on the show, and he was a good lad, but we'll see. I assume things are about to become very spicy. I hear some people have tried to sit through this, and it's taking them 6 hours. I will beat those times. I will beat those 6-hour times, so there we have it. You know, this is going to be a thing.
Noah Samson's a fucking idiot.
Noah, the coward Noah Samson, who said that he liked me in a video and then later posted like a minute-long retraction in the following video.
I have no problem with black creators getting really big. However, FD signifier is a dumb fuck.
What? Bro.
Whoa! Alright, hey, so speaking of spicy, right out of the gates, this one is, oh yeah, oh my, alright, let's do this.
What are you talking about, man?
Hassan Piker is an idiot. Nobody learned.
Wait, what? I was just watching the Xanderhal / Ben Burgess debate where they went after, what is it, HAW, and I was for the first time trying to be like, oh wow, Xanderhal did his homework, this is a good job. And now, is this going to revert everything for me? Am I going to be like, oh god, what's going on?
Anything new from Hassan. I don't believe that Hassan is capable of defending socialism as a concept. I don't think he understands it enough to defend it as a concept.
Hasn't Xanderhal come out and said I'm a liberal? Like he's posted that on Twitter, I'm a liberal.
Fuck you, FD signifier. Fuck you, Noah Samson. Fuck you, Hassan Piker. Go fuck yourself. Don't be proud that you can't defend your ideas in a debate. Don't proudly exclaim to the online right and everybody watching that the left isn't and shouldn't defend their ideas. I'm sure that Noah Samson will just end up putting out another video about how debate bros are awful. And with the bisexual lighting and everything like that.
That intro is fire. Holy shit. What a start. That was 56 seconds. Okay, now I know. Now I know why people took 6 hours to watch this. You gotta savor the morsels. This is delicious. Oh, that bisexual lighting.
Hi everyone, welcome back to this television show. I'm Noah Samson, your host on google.com/youtube.com's best website, my channel. If you've got something that's gross or a little bit weird near you, like a garbage bag full of animal parts or something, get it out of there. Take out the trash. That's my #1 health foods tip of the day for today's day. Warning, warning, alert, alert, red alert, alert, alert. This is not an anti-debate bro video. This video is, and I hope we can improve our online conduct and get better at recognizing white supremacist structures in leftist communities video. It just so happens that in order to do this, we need to use a couple of debate bros as our Caucasian punching bags. But they won't mind. As a matter of fact, they like it. They love it even. They love it when this happens to them, and we love to see it. This video is sponsored by White on White Crime. I'm here to correct the record on...
I find people like Noah Samson almost depressing for me. Because if I wanted to emulate Noah Samson's particular style of humor, I couldn't. I couldn't make a video where I all of a sudden stop and I'm like, I'm going to deliver the whole video talking like this, but then there's going to be some really funny scenes that I interject with some really good editing techniques. It's going to be funny. You'll enjoy it. Like, everyone would be like, oh my God, Lance is trying to do a Noah Samson and he sucks at it. He's so bad at it. Holy shit, Lance, go back to what you doing before. Do with the voices and the hooble habble and the gooble gobble. That's what we want to see.
Some falsehoods that are being spread around the D-boy zone, and also expand on my own personal criticisms of these spaces. I personally, and you can shit on the top of my head for saying this, but I personally think that people like Vaush have the ability to do a lot of good with their platforms, teaching young people how to use arguments and rhetoric to push back against their 9 o'clock bedtimes for reasons not unrelated to gaming, spreading socialism with discord characteristics across the globe. No, but seriously, I do appreciate what he and other members of the live streaming community do. It's a different skill set that's important to have, and denigrating this community from the outside is the last thing that I want to do. That being said, there are some clear problems with the way that debate spaces operate that will only continue to arise until they are properly addressed. So that's why I'm here. I can fix them. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but you know what they say, shoot for the moon, and when the bullet travels back to Earth, you'll kill a teenager in a nearby town. I've brought a friend along with me.
Okay, so I'm just going to say before we get into the spice, because clearly that's on the horizon, I agree with the premise of this already. I think that there's nothing wrong. It is perfectly healthy to call out other people in your community, especially if they consider themselves to be leftists, to demand that we all go to a higher standard. People do it to me all the time. Sometimes I listen. Sometimes I'm an egotistical maniac and I don't hear what they say and I'm just like, no, you're wrong. I'm always right. I know I'm always right. So that's just all there is to it. But if you can actually convince someone to get through, it's going to be better for everybody as a whole. So as a premise, I think this is a good start. A great start, in fact. But maybe we should just end it here. This would be a good time to just have the credits roll. Finn.
For today's video. Why don't you come on out, buddy?
Whoa, hey everybody, it's me, Good Faith Gary.
This is Good Faith Gary. Everyone say hello.
Howdy, y'all.
No, not you. I'm telling them to say hello to you.
Oh, my bad.
Wait, Gary, aren't you just Clippy from the Windows thing?
I don't know who that is.
I'm pretty sure you are. Like that animated Microsoft.
It looks like Clippy on a bender, to be honest with you.
It's Gary, so it's on my birth certificate.
Okay, well, I've brought Good Faith Gary in to help us out by stepping in if I ever start acting in what debate streamers might deem bad faith.
I'm gonna be looking out for any uncharitable, straw man, poisoning of the well style situations.
Hopefully this will help keep the dialogue open, because honestly I don't trust myself enough to not be a dick to viewers of debate streamers, even though I used to be one of them.
Yeah, you've been on leftist Twitter for a little too long, huh?
Right.
I'm Good Faith Gary and I love to engage.
Okay, man.
Setting up shop in the marketplace of ideas.
You can go now, but just ping me if you need to interject, okay?
Alrighty. Good faith to you and yours.
Anyways, if you're a streamer that's watching this live right now, I forbid you from pausing this video to pick at me like a scab and go me, 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 me.
Oops. I still have the power, Noah. You may be funny. You may be incredibly talented. You may have great timing, but I can still pause. Oh yes, nothing sussy baka about that.
You're going to keep this video playing and you're going to like it. I'm just joking, but if you do need a pause, now would be a great time while I have my Patreon link on the screen. Go refill your nuggies and warm milky and pay me some money, okay? I'm doing God's work. Organized religion moment. I'm like the white Joel Osteen. Why is that in the script? Come on. All right, thanks. Time to go. Fuck you. I had been spending the last month or so working on a couple different scripts for videos when the following clip was brought to my attention last week. It's from a video by the leftist streamer and YouTuber Xanderhal titled "Why LeftTube is Dying and the Next Anti-Sjw Wave is Rising." Oh no, this situation sounds dire. We better take a look, see what's going on.
You'll notice, and we talked about this earlier, there are some people online in the political scene right now that are left-wing, that are growing and are doing well. Many of the creators that are really blowing up right now are newer essay, commentary, bisexual lighting YouTubers. Good example of this is Noah Samson. We just did a segment earlier.
I gotta be honest, why does everyone call it the bisexual lighting like it's a bad thing? It's beautiful. I'm not even saying that as someone who's bi. I'm just saying that like it's a very nice aesthetic. It's quite pleasing. I don't understand why people use that as a derogatory term.
Covering
Oh hey, that's me.
Noah Samson and how he's actually a dumb fuck.
Oh god damn it.
That dude is literally gaining 4,000 subs a day right now, and this worries me. I am worried about channels like Noah Samson and people like Hassan blowing up on YouTube because they're stupid and they can't defend their position.
Hassan blew up on YouTube a long time ago, though. Like a long time ago.
Now here's where I paused the video and thought, Tom Hardy gif from Mad Max Fury Road. That's bait, right? Has to be. Or maybe it's a performance. Like somebody forced an AI to watch debate streams for a year straight and then had it write a manifesto. And then microwaved Eminem for 20 seconds and had him read it at gunpoint.
Can't defend their positions.
So I kept watching the video because...
Hagbard, let me just say this, and it's good that it blocked it. If you type out slurs in the chat and then they pop up on my screen, that can technically get the stream in trouble. So just add an asterisk near the letter, or you can say the F word or something like that instead of typing it out in chat.
You know, I support small gamers, and that's when I saw this. Xanderhal responds to a message in the chat that mentions several popular black leftist creators by name, some of whom are relatively new to YouTube.
It never happened.
More examples, lol. Progressive/leftist channels by black creators have been getting really big this past year, for example. I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad you brought this up, because some of the examples you list here, I know these people, and they're exactly the problem I'm talking about.
These people, sorry.
I have no problem with black creators getting really big. However, let me check something really quick.
Wait, what's the but here?
FD signifier is a dumb fuck. I'm sorry.
This is awkward. I shouldn't have opened the stream today with that FD signifier video. Now I feel like I've been called out secondhand.
Hey guys, I'm sorry.
Okay, so he's definitely doing a little bit of trolling. Why else would someone say something like that about FD signifier of all people? The final boss of the wise uncles of YouTube.com. If he isn't baiting us for hate clicks here and has just deemed himself the racial arbiter of who's allowed to make left-wing YouTube content, then that's not much better, is it? Nope. Oh, I'm fine with black people coming onto LeftTube, but I have some conditions. Seems pretty weird. Earlier in this stream, he goes over how his channel is, well, dying. It's a pretty unfortunate segment, but I assumed at this point him lashing out here had something to do with that. But eventually he gets to a claim of sorts. He's gonna be on the screen for a little while, so just a heads up, if a radiation sickness warning shows up on your HUD, you should probably just pause the video and go take a shower.
FD signifier is a dumb fuck. I was iffy on him for a while. He's been shit-talking the debate bro thing for a while now. He's also gone on Twitter and said some dumb fuck shit about like breadtube debate bros and stuff like that. Here's the thing. People like FD signifier, Noah Samson, these all have one thing in common. They hate and non-stop shit talk debate bros. They'll just shit talk the concept of being a debate bro and claim that debate bros are all toxic assholes who make the left worse. You're starting to see that rhetoric get really popular among the left right now.
You guys notice how everyone I meet and interact with in my life ends up calling me an asshole? It's so weird. That rhetoric is getting really popular right now. Whoever's doing that, we gotta stop.
Noah.
Okay, sorry. Here, let's let him finish making his point.
Do you think...
So since shots have been fired, is there now a response to the response? I imagine now Xanderhal has done a response to this, and then there's going to be a response to a response. And I guess because I'm doing a viewing of this, there's going to be a response to the response to the response. Or maybe we could have someone viewing me, viewing them, and then someone else can view me. Yeah, we could create a whole timeline here.
That the left online would do better with people.
Raven G3226, thank you for subscribing. Good Faith Gary seems like cool people. I mean, he's keeping us, like, he's making sure that we have, you know, there's not going to be any, I assume, straw men that are used. We're going to keep everything grounded, you know, no logical fallacies. This is a logical fallacy-free zone. We don't go down that. It's a slippery slope. Fuck!
People like Hassan and Noah Samson and FD signifier being the largest figures on it, the types of people who say debate is bad, who literally say debating is bad, people who literally as a concept are against debate and defending your ideas, and they publicly say...
In defense of Xanderhal, Noah, I don't think there's anything wrong with him being an out and proud stoner. I don't think that doesn't have anything to do with these people or any of the other stuff that he's talking about. I mean, these can be completely separate issues. That's my first Noah call out. It's happened, yes.
So, do you think that this is what we want representing the left?
Okay, so Xanderhal says that Hassan, Feek, and I are, as a concept, against debate and defending our ideas, and goes on to conclude that this will inevitably end in a weakening of the online left because...
I'm starting to see the online left turn into what it was back during the Gamergate era. One of the biggest common talking points from the right during this era was the left was too afraid to debate and defend their position.
Whoa, we have a manifesto of sorts. Gamergate era culture, 2014 to 2016. Leafy clones, Keemstar, edgy. Wow, Keemstar survived. Filthy Frank. I watched Filthy Frank. Bill C16, like just the bill, or I guess a topic du jour, and then Jordan Peterson is right underneath it. BreadTube era, shit tons of right-wing terror attacks, Twitch getting big, lefty debaters doing well and growing, Me Too, police brutality, pro-Black Lives Matter sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment, the election, formerly popular right-wing creators. Like, I think this is kind of reductionist, and it makes BreadTube appear as if BreadTube was supposed to be kind of like a pro democratic platform, which is the main criticism you get from people who hate BreadTubers, like Caleb Maupin. He wrote a whole book about this, how the whole thing serves imperialism by propping up the Democrats. It was like BreadTube as a Reddit thread was a response to the overwhelming amount of right-wing material that was like dominant on YouTube at the time. And some of the first people to explode in that scene, which would be what, like H-Bomber Guy, ContraPoints, PhilosophyTube, like all three of them were making videos, and Sean too, they were making videos that were directly in opposition to a lot of those big figures, you know, your Steven Crowder, Sargon Navakads, stuff like that. And it's like the concept of what BreadTube is today has splintered so much into so many different factions. And by the way, I said the other day when I forget who it was Haas or someone else who was making fun of saying that BreadTube, no one on BreadTube is interested in theory. Everyone on BreadTube is deeply concerned strictly about propping up the Democratic Party. Hakeem, one of his latest videos on theory, was one of the top videos on the BreadTube subreddit. Okay, and everyone was like, Hakeem never appears on BreadTube Lens. That's not true. You were all wrong. You were all wrong. I was right. And I'm going to take the win, all right? I'm going to enjoy my win, my sweet, delicious win. Gonna pour some sauce on that, maybe a nice hot sauce, and enjoy a little spicy W there. So there you have it.
That's why Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro blew up so much. It's because they debated, and they didn't debate well, and they weren't telling the truth. They just debated. Just the fact they were willing to debate gave them more credibility than the left, because nobody on the left wanted to debate.
Yes, famously credible intellectuals Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro.
You must be a biological boy to be a Boy Scout. You have to be a boy to be a Boy Scout.
While you're putting your finger in the little hole. Rubber.
So where is Zanman getting this impression about us? Well, I have a few ideas. I've gathered some clips together of criticisms made about Debate Bros by the people he's mentioned. These are things that I both agree with and think may be the source of this characterization. Sorry if this is a bit tedious, but I think it could be potentially helpful to have all of these critiques sort of compiled here. To give a little
Cat Black, J Smooth existed then. Yeah, there was lots of people. T1J has been around for a while, and for some reason, when I would talk about T1J, people would get really defensive. They would be like, that's a liberal, Lance. It's like an avowed liberal. Why would you ever promote T1J? And I was like, not every single content producer. First off, a lot of content producers that you know and love, they're sock dems, which I'm sorry, sock dems are still in favor of capitalism. They just want a kinder capitalism. And so if you have someone who's a very big quote unquote bread tuber, who isn't 100% anti-capitalist in every way, shape, or form, to dismiss them outright when they have really good videos. Like T1J has a lot of great videos. Seems like, I don't know, misplaced.
Context as to the state of this riveting discourse. During a recent live stream, Hassan voiced some criticisms about the Debate Bros sphere and the audiences it tends to cultivate.
I agree, but I also see the downside of never having your viewpoints challenged with opposing views. Yawn. Okay, here's the thing. This notion that you are having your opinions challenged in the marketplace of ideas is a silly one. That would make Ben Shapiro the most intelligent person on the internet.
Hey, you're not a man if you think you're a man. And if I call you a moose, are you suddenly a moose?
This
okay,
is why I absolutely fucking despise Debate Bros, because you don't care about the actual morality behind the ideology that you supposedly believe in. You don't care about the outcomes. You do not have like a well-grounded materialist perspective on issues. You are simply going towards who is the most powerful intellectual gladiator.
FD Signifiers Break Bread is a video that covers the history and current state of BreadTube or LeftTube and the barriers posed to non-white creators on this platform. There's a section in this video that had some things to say about Debate Bros. Let's take a look at a clip.
And this problem with Debate Bros and their fandom, who understand make up a very significant chunk of LeftTube viewing, including my own, is the problem of most white LeftTube, both creators and consumers, which is for all of the theory and research and outward rejection of white supremacy on paper, the vast majority have not taken the time to dismantle the white racial frame through which they see the world. So even with the best intentions, the behavior and viewpoints born out of this space is still going to be rooted in racist frameworks unless the concept of whiteness is addressed. Essentially, if you read Marx and Trotsky and Gramsci and What You Want to Do Ski and whomever else, but not Du Bois, Fanon, Hooks, Crenshaw, etc., You
Fanana's
might be a
base.
leftist white supremacist, and thus this colors the nature of leftist content and inadvertently makes things dangerous for the marginalized voices that get caught in the wake of this highly toxic, highly negative energy.
If that last part sounded oddly specific, don't worry, we'll get to that. Foreshadowing is a narrative technique when you talk about something and you talk about it again later. My most vocal criticism of Debate Bros came in the follow-up video to my LeftTube guide with a section on Debate Bros. Not gonna lie, I wrote that script in about an hour, so not my cleanest work. I also played some out-of-context clips of Vaush. It was meant to be a joke, but it ended up just being me playing out-of-context clips of Vaush. So to the gamer gods, I formally and humbly apologize. To repent for my clip chimping sins, I will be live streaming Dark Souls this week, so make sure to press subscribe and hit that fucking bell, you piece of shit, you little shitworm. But the point of that section was to document some of the problems with Debate Bros that I had missed in my initial video, where I promoted a bunch of people, some of them rather uncritically. My main points were: don't rely on debate streamers as your sole source of information, and don't take anything your gamer of choice says at face value. And these are things that I stand by. They're also particularly relevant.
I think that is good advice. I don't have any critique for that advice. I would agree with that. I think there's people who form too much of a parasocial relationship with their favorite content producer of choice, du jour, whatever you want to call it, and then they start to use them as the compass for which they should guide all of their decision making. I think it's perfectly healthy for you to disagree with someone that you're a big fan of, and I think it's also perfectly healthy for people to listen to the criticism of the people that disagree with them. But this also comes into a little bit of the talk about right now when it comes to Debate Bros. I completely agree that, like, if two people are debating, that's not like to find or discover the truth of the matter. That is about two people, two basically whatever content producer figures battling in the online arena. That's what it is. It's not, you're not going to walk away from it being like, well, now we know what is the truth of that. However, like, I think there is something to be said about not even like negative debates, but like let's just call them productive conversations. Perhaps that. I have had productive conversations with Ben Burgess, where the two of us were, like, quote unquote, debating cancel culture. We have like a 1 hour debate on cancel culture. Shameless plug, it's on youtube.com/the Serf Times if you want to see it. And that to me is a very productive conversation, because both of us come to the table with everything that we already usually espouse in our various platforms. So I'm usually talking about it from one angle, he's talking about it from the other angle, and then we see where exactly the differences lie, and is there anything productive to come out of that? Can we both grow from the, can we both arrive in good faith and then leave that experience better and our audience is better as well? Or do we just start calling each other slurs the entire time? And to find that out, you'll have to go see the full video.
Today's video. Now, when Xanderhal takes what we've said here and elevates it to the claim that we are against debate as a concept, well, this is just not true. I'm going to play some clips that refute this point now. Again, incredibly tedious, I apologize, but potentially helpful for context and also to prove that we are coming in good faith when we criticize Debate Bros. Pandering to the good faith gaze.
I feel like FD's break bread thing flies over the face of some white creators because of simple language barriers. He doesn't mean break bread tube. He simply wants to celebrate its usefulness while pointing out the toxic aspects. Yeah, and I think that's healthy. I think critiques of broader movements, especially online movements, is healthy, because at the end of the day, this is what, like, there's more young people who are watching Hassan and Hassan streams than there are, you know, people of that generation watching Fox News or watching any of the other, like, you know, they're not watching MSNBC, they're not watching ABC, they're watching like their favorite streamer, their favorite bread tuber, their favorite content creator. And like, no one should be above criticism. You know, like, this might tie in a little bit to this whole weird Joe Rogan phenomenon that's happening right now, where people are like, holy fuck, like, can't believe that people are canceling Joe Rogan, and Spotify effectively canceled Joe Rogan by canceling Joe Rogan. It's like, people are calling Joe Rogan out. Like, call out culture and cancel culture, sometimes I feel they get conflated as the same two things. But the idea of someone saying, hey, by the way, your shitty takes are shitty, that's very different than saying, hey, by the way, I want you censored and you never to be able to speak again, and let me grab the tape,
if you will. Here is Hassan from that same segment of his stream where he acknowledges the utility of debate.
I'm not saying that, like, there is no value to responding or learning and recognizing the talking points that right-wingers engage in. Of course there is. People especially right-wingers in general, love to arm themselves with the same talking points that they're disseminating out of think tanks. Unless you're talking to like a total dumbass right-winger, you're gonna hear some fucking takes that you will hear from Ben Shapiro verbatim. So there is value to learning what those talking points are and understanding why they're fucking stupid.
Here is Feek opening the Debate Bro section in Break Bread with some concessions.
And to be fair, if I had it in me to watch the 3 and 4 hour streams of these guys talking and playing video games, I doubt I would have anything negative to say about 95% of what they do on stream. And I understand that when you're talking for that long, you're liable to say some things that maybe you wish you hadn't have said. I don't individually think that these are bad people or even that they need to be ousted from the left. I think that that very concept of ousting people is part of the problem, really.
Look at all that good faith. So much good faith. You're not even gonna believe how much faith is good in there. Good faith all the time. One of the things I hear thrown around the debate zone a lot is the concept of the left having a diversity of tactics. So different styles of content for different audiences, all with the intent of spreading leftism as far and wide as possible. And on a macro lens, the better we are at making this content, the more views it gets, and the wider audiences are cultivated, the better off we will be, because this will mean less people gravitating towards right-wing content and more people learning about socialism. And that all sounds good to me. No notes.
I am so proud of you.
Thanks. Okay, well, one note. Is what we do on here an actual political force, or is it entertainment? If so, how can that be quantified? If not, just how much are we overvaluing our utility to society beyond carving out a new consumer demographic of leftist content? If the style of leftism I want to promote is different than your style, and it's a style that you don't like, is this going to be an issue? Are you going to use your large platform to strike me down?
Noah, you're vague posting.
Are all forms of content equal when it comes to learning?
Noah, stop it.
So many questions, no answers for now.
Okay, that was weird, man.
What, have you never heard of the Socratic method?
Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. I like it. I like that a whole lot.
Okay.
Ugh, that's so good.
All right.
Oh my god.
Briefly, I would like to take a deep dive into an interaction I had recently that I think might be helpful for illustrating some of the problems with online communication, specifically regarding the topic of debate. It's a little detour, but stay with me, okay? I'm gonna get better at writing one day. My ADHD pills are in the mail. So I tweeted this a few weeks ago, saying that basically I do not think white genocide is something that we should be debating. The long debunked white supremacist talking point about the white population being eradicated through immigration. Gary, I need you.
Hey, y'all.
Wouldn't you agree that a certain amount of dogmatism is not only not bad, but it's a sign of progress?
Explain to them why this tweet is a problem for you and your people over there.
Gladly. In the debate sphere, there's a conception of the archetypal Twitter lefty that says things like, human rights aren't up for debate, or it's not my job to educate you. This, in our minds, inhibits the left's ability to argue for concrete policy positions, because if we can't have difficult conversations, we can't solve difficult problems. This might have been what Xanderhal was referencing when he was talking about you being unwilling to debate. This tweet plays into that stereotype and makes you look really dumb. That's me quoting them. I don't think you're dumb. No, I think you're a nice enough guy.
Thanks, Gary.
Maybe it'll be useful if you just clarify what you meant here.
Sure, Gary. Sounds good. As long as racist and fascist and other bad ideas exist, they should be challenged. Whether that's through debate, essays, one-on-one communication, iMessage, Tinder, Hinge, writing it on the ground in the woods, whatever. Someone pointed out the fact that Tucker Carlson goes on his show every night and uses white genocide rhetoric for hours on end in front of millions of people. That's a good point. It's not like it's not happening. As much as I'd love to be able to say white genocide doesn't exist and be done with it, because it doesn't, I recognize that for other people in different areas of the political spectrum, it's not that simple, especially in the general American population. We still got a lot of work to do getting them caught up. Here's the original image that led me to tweeting this. This image, to me, is what sociologists might call sussy-wussy. Two white dudes on a live stream titled Debating White Genocide. Racism, is it really that bad?
Noah, I can understand why this looks problematic to you, but the thing is, those dudes were actually providing arguments against it.
Right.
And that's good, right?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to do it.
I suppose that's true. However, my disdain for the idea of still having to debate things like white genocide comes from somewhere. Mainly, it comes from the part of me that feels like the real-world significance of de-radicalization by YouTube content has a tendency to be overstated online. Or, to put it another way, converting to leftism by consuming debate content can come with certain side effects. You might have had a de-radicalization experience thanks to someone like Vaush or Destiny or even Xanderhal, God help you, and that's great. Seriously, I'm not here to knock on that. The less alt-right, the better. But my concern is that by staying in these spaces, it becomes easy to maintain habits of consumption that can inhibit your ability to recognize the reactionary tendencies that you or the people around you might still hold.
Noah, echo chamber character.
So far it's kind of like the pipeline exists, but he thinks maybe it stops at a certain point. Is what I'm getting.
Characteristics can be found in any online community, right? That's the basis of how they form, by bringing like-minded people together. There will always be issues like the ones that you mentioned.
That's true, but the debate bro ozone echo chambers seem to have a uniquely grating effect due to their highly charged environments, massive platforms, and self-appointed status as the gladiators of online anti-fascism.
One of the biggest problems back in 2014 and 2016 is there were no lefties online who weren't, insane to say, no, we don't actually believe that all white people are evil and we don't want to do this, and this that you claim we want to do. It wasn't until people like Destiny and Vaush and me and Chud Logic and Demon Mama and just like left-wing debate people came along that argued against those effectively that you really started to see that narrative start to get pushed down.
There are a few examples I could use here to illustrate my point, but why don't we start with Xanderhal? Sorry guy, there's a new lol cow in town, and it isn't a feminist gaming journalist this time. It's you. Xander, Alexander Hawley Ocasio-Cortez. Sorry, it's not funny at all, actually. The most viewed video on Xanderhal's channel is called How I Fell Down the...
But your editing is. Again, I couldn't impersonate Noah if I wanted to.
alt-right pipeline and escaped. It's from December of 2019. We've seen this story before, but basically he got into some Pepe shenanigans with his gamer friends and was eventually pulled out of it. The thing that pulled him out, in his case, was Destiny's debate with JonTron, where Destiny ended Nazism once and for all, or something like that. I don't know, I didn't watch it. He concludes this 48-minute video with what he sees as the most important aspect of online politics as he moves forward on his journey into leftism.
There's one thing above all of this that may be the most important thing, and that's optics. I know I'm not just speaking for myself when I say that the stereotype of an SJW is off-putting to most people. Don't let yourself fit into the mold of the straw man that reactionaries have made of us. If we defy their expectations and their stereotypes, they won't know how to counter us. Us leftists, we have facts, statistics, data, and even historical context on our side. If people like us can drown out the loud minority that the right uses to make their hit pieces, they won't have any more material.
First of all, what did this person do to you? They look fine. They look good. I want a portable ball sack. Where did he even...
That one, wow, totally went over my, I didn't even look, wow, okay, yeah, portable ball sack. Having failed in any department of male roles, they carry their masculinity as a weight and blame toxic masculine culture for their inability to get anything done in their life. Yeah, just walking around swinging my portable ball sack. Hey, is that a bar of soap? No, it's my balls. It's my balls. Yeah, had to disassociate from them.
Get that. I love this though. He's like, yeah, you can be a leftist as long as you're not one of those filthy fucking degenerate SJWs because they make us look very bad. I know this because right-wingers told me so, but let's cut him some slack. That was 2 years ago. He's probably grown up and become a big boy now. Let's see what he's up to.
One of the biggest common talking points from the right during this era was the left was too afraid to debate and defend their positions. Nobody on the left wanted to debate. The left at the time were high and mighty, BuzzFeed videos, feminist, like video essay content, woke scoldy, high and mighty, preach.
I feel like that's just the characterization of what the right thought the left was. They weren't as popular on YouTube was one of the biggest problems.
Non-funny, non-edgy, milquetoast, fucking not whitewashed, fucking sugar sweet, fucking condescending left-wing content made by, well, trans people with pink hair, okay, and blue hair, which obviously isn't a problem in and of itself, but it does kind of make the left, it makes gives right-wingers, makes them mad.
Oh, I feel like I've heard this somewhere before. This hyperfixation on optics is indicative of a framework of political thought that views the world through a lens of what the right will think of us, and little more, and that's what I take issue with. Basing your politics on practicality is a good thing, but when the crux of your argument rests upon dictating the terms of how other people should look and act, and silencing minorities...
No, he said drowning out the loud minority.
Drown out the loud minority?
Sure, okay, my bad. Just save that one in the memory bank for later. Silencing minorities.
Drowning out the loud minority.
Okay, dude. When optics is the crux of the argument, this, to me, is in some ways indistinguishable from just being an anti-SJW person yourself, because it means that your online content Overton window always has to include the Gamergator perspective. And how much leftism can you really be getting done if that's the case? All of this makes a lot more sense when we look at where Xanderhal is getting this whole narrative from. In his video, he starts off by citing another YouTuber whose video's thesis forms the basis of his own, and the channel he cites just so happens to be an actual reactionary YouTuber whose primary content focus is dunking on e-girls and defending Leafy.
Oh my god.
So what's going on there? This all reminds me of last year when he wouldn't stop saying ableist slurs despite his community's objections to him doing so. His reasoning was that gamer language such as this is more effective at bringing people over from the right. It only took about 12 debates and 7 response videos for him to eventually stop.
Hyperbole, strike 7.
He did stop, and that's good, but not without it requiring severe pushback from multiple different creators. Xanderhal does go on to say that optics aren't everything, and that it's okay to be trans or something.
Trans people with pink hair. But I'm more so talking about the attitude, not like the optics of who's advocating for what, right? That doesn't matter. I don't believe in the idea that like we should relegate certain identities to the sidelines because their identities are like bad optics. I don't believe in that, okay? Optics are important, but they're not everything, right?
That was only after the Gamergate tirade spilling out of him.
Condescending, trans people high and mighty.
So it's stuff like this that makes me wonder about the boundaries of what these communities are able to accomplish, and whether or not the high regard debate lords seem to hold themselves in is...
I'm so scared to take a sip of soda while I'm watching this, because you never know when the next one is coming, right? You're just like, you're like this, and it's gonna be like, oh god, no, he could just do one of those little, like, comically timed stings, my word. Ah, delicious. Good job. All right, good water, good water. Let's continue.
Warranted, but you can decide that for yourselves. See the current state of the valiant white debate lord saviors of the American online left.
Stop it.
He'll probably complain about being clipped out of context, but I mean, the full video's there. It's a full video. You can watch the whole thing. Also, if you do go there, don't say anything mean, please. Just comment Squid Gang with 6 G's. But that's all I really needed to say about that guy. So yeah, on to the important stuff now. Title card right now. Thanks. So now we've dealt with that sort of silly stuff, I want to move on to a more serious example of where I feel that these spaces are causing harm within the online left. I think it actually makes the most sense to start this story by briefly going back to Xanderhal reacting to something that I tweeted. I know, I'm making you watch me watch someone react to my tweets. It's disgraceful, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this.
And then this is the one that instantly, if anyone says Vaush is wrong in the professor...
Great job using a lot of jungle. I know it's completely unrelated to the topic at hand, but it's neat to hear some jungle beats in in one of these so-called breadtube videos.
Flowers debate, there's just no saving them, okay? There's no saving them. They're a piece of shit, okay? Because they're defending genocide. There's just... That is the dichotomy in that debate. You're either anti-genocide or pro-woke genocide. You're either pro-genocide or anti-genocide. And certain people on the left are pro-genocide because it looks woke in a certain way.
Okay, so if you have no idea what any of that meant, let me get you up to speed. The tweet he is referencing is talking about a conflict from a couple of months ago that happened between the large left-leaning streamer Vaush and the small leftist video essayist Professor Flowers. My tweet is saying that Vaush was in the wrong in that conflict. This interaction began when Professor Flowers made a video critiquing Vaush for conflating black nationalism with white nationalism in a prior debate. Vaush reacted to this video on his stream. He disagreed with her characterizations of him. Professor Flowers made a video responding to his disagreements. He reacted to that video on his stream and disagreed. He then invited her on the stream to discuss, which ended up turning into a debate. After this, she released one final video on it, and so did he. That's not where this ends, but for now, that summary should suffice. The debate was, well, a shit show, as both parties have since acknowledged, and as we'll get into in a moment. But the effects that it had on the online left content space were much more serious and malicious. One of these effects, as Xanderhal has so succinctly put it in his video, is that it's treated as orthodox thought in debate spaces that anyone who agrees with or defends Professor Flowers in any capacity is pro-genocide or sympathetic to violent ethnostates.
That is the dichotomy in that debate. You're either anti-genocide or pro-woke genocide.
Now, this idea...
I think that is kind of emblematic of the problem with just thinking of these debates as being arbiters of truth, because to watch something and then walk away with like the only two ways to interpret anything two people said over the span of like 2 hours is in this dichotomy. It's one of these two things and nothing else. Visitor96, thank you, I appreciate it. Oh boy, I do love discourse. Oh, we got a lot of discourse coming. We're only 26 minutes into this. I'm still doing better. I told you this wouldn't take 6 hours.
Comes from somewhere. It comes straight from the source, actually. From the overlord of the debate realm himself, Vaush. Since this debate nearly 6 months ago, Vaush has continued to characterize Professor Flowers as being an anti-white racist, whose ideology inevitably leads to genocide. Here he is talking about it last week on his stream.
It's like Professor Flowers. I think that Professor Flowers is basically just an anti-white racist who stumbled into a misunderstanding of decolonial terminology. There are always bad people who will mask their ideology through sort of euphemism and adjacent positions. How many super far-right fasci types cloak their positions in the front of like nationalism? Not like hyper-nationalist, fascist, whatever, you know, but just like regular American nationalism. That's like the most common thing in the book, you know? It's not even like anything PF said was that extreme either. It's ethnic cleansing. I don't get it.
There's enough lore and content regarding this interaction to last anyone who's interested until next winter, so I'm just going to give my honest opinion and summarize it in the following way. I do not think that anyone that has actually listened to Professor Flowers' videos on this topic can make any of the claims that Vaush and his fans continue to make about her. Calling her an anti-white racist that is pro-genocide or pro-ethnostates is a lie, as it was never the content of her arguments. It was a narrative crafted by the failings of the format of online debate streaming. More on that later.
We'll come back to this later.
But more importantly, thanks to the means by which this narrative was conceived, with Vaush arguing against decolonization and separatism using fear of retribution rhetoric.
It's all well and good to talk about living free of your oppressors, but when you break apartheid in South Africa, there are millions of white people living in that country. Like, what do? Do you just like ship them all out? Do you build camps? I mean, there's not really any way to do that without genocide, you know?
It has created a hostile space for black creators wanting to discuss issues like black separatism and black nationalism, and this in turn serves...
There's no way to do that without genocide. Wow. Is that going to be one of those things where it's like, oh, you have to get the full context of the clip? It's I think I need good faith Gary for this one.
To reinforce the racial status quo of LeftTube, which is something that, especially as leftists, we should not be wanting to reinforce. In his retrospective video on the conflict, Vaush still fails to meaningfully recognize the distinction between black separatism and white nationalism, which was the main criticism of Professor Flowers' original video.
Black separatism is essentially just the black version of white nationalism. It's just kind of couched in this, like, a different type of victim rhetoric. The end result tends to lead to ethnic supremacy and ethnostates, and I think that's bad no matter what.
Mind you, this is after like half a year of this being explained to him in varying degrees of simplicity, that this comparison between these two different things serves to ignore the historical context of these movements, and comparing it to Nazism is...
Caleb is in the thumbnail. I keep noticing Caleb just popping up in the corner there.
Ignorant, to put it lightly. Gary, anything you want to say here, or can I just keep going?
Okay, well, I guess on the debate side, we did find Professor Flowers guilty of a few crimes.
Okay.
First off, racial essentialization.
What the fuck is that?
It's when you call white people colonizers. It's racist dog whistling.
Oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
This should be disqualifying from the entire left. The idea that literally just admitting, by colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white.
Okay, give me the timestamp where she said it was okay to call white people colonizers.
What?
You don't have it, do you?
Not on hand.
Okay, well, no one does because it doesn't exist.
But she said white people are colonizers. How is this not an endorsement of...
Who colonized the world, Gary?
Europeans.
Okay, and what did Europeans look like?
Like you.
So, white, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it's okay to call white people colonizers. That's racist, hurts our movement, and pushes away potential new leftists.
Gary, I already explained this. That's not...
Okay, this one is the first one that I think I have to step in here and explain a little bit. And I think I've tried to explain this in longer format, so this one might be a bit of a speed run, but here we go. I personally don't use the term colonizer in a derogatory fashion when speaking to other people on these issues for two reasons, and I'll explain why. The first one being in that if my goal is to advocate for Indigenous rights, which it is most time where we're talking about this, am I going to win someone over who I'm talking about this, who may not know a lot about these topics, like land back, for example, by calling them a colonizer? And the answer to that would be no. But two, if the question is, did people, like, if you say today, to a white person, hey, by the way, you're a colonizer, and then they respond with, I literally wasn't alive when that happened. That happened a very long time ago. That might be the end of that conversation. And this is the more difficult thing to try and explain to people. And this is not even from an academic standpoint, but just this. Colonization is an ongoing process. And yes, the people who are alive today in a country are not literally the people who originally colonized that country from its indigenous population. That is true. However, do you currently benefit from a system of colonization? And this includes myself. Very, as you can probably see before you, white. Doesn't matter if I have an indigenous mother. Still, I benefit in the exact same way that someone who doesn't have an indigenous mother might. And the answer to that would be yes. It's the same thing with white supremacy, right? Are you one of the people who originally initiated a lot of the horrifying things in the history of America? No. Are you responsible for any of that? No, you're not. Are you benefiting from a system that currently has that? Yes. The answer to that would be yes. That doesn't make you a literal colonizer. So that's why I think, like, I don't think it's productive if you're having a conversation with someone to just be like, you wouldn't understand, you're a colonizer. End of sentence. Like, I don't see in which way someone who hears that is suddenly going to be like, I hadn't thought of it that way. But now that you've worded it this way, I am now prepared to admit that, yes, I am a colonizer, I have colonized, and I have the sin of colonization upon me, or something like that, right? It's not going to get someone on the other side of the aisle to be suddenly like, oh, okay, well, yeah, I'm interested in land back now. Tell me more about this land back that you speak of. Because as a colonizer, because you've called me one, I'm ready and I'm willing to listen about that. So it's two different things, and obviously it's a very complicated topic, and it's one that may be difficult to explain to people. And it's one that is difficult to explain to people, especially something related to white supremacy, because if you talk about someone like that and you talk about these systems, the structures of white supremacy itself, and then you try to say it as a blanket statement like, by the way, all white people are benefiting from white supremacy, and people hearing that on the other end who don't know a lot about this topic might sit there and be like, well, I happen to be dirt poor, I have a lot of troubles in my life, I don't feel like I'm benefiting from any kind of racial caste system that is artificial and created and upheld through a lot of other systems like capitalism. That, like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm trying to put food on my table, and things are really, really tough. I don't understand. It's like, so on one end, there's that optics discussion, which we came up to at the beginning of this, where it's just like, how exactly, what is the best way to get the messaging across? Because ultimately, if we're all on the same, like, if we're all looking for the same goal, and if we're talking about Indigenous rights, right? If we all want to advocate for things like land back, if you want to explain land back to someone and to get them on your side about land back, that can be done without also saying all white people are colonizers. Right? Because if you say that, immediately I think you're going to shut down the conversation for some individuals. But that doesn't change the fact that, yes, colonization is an ongoing process. And yes, if you're white or white passing or whatever, you may benefit in ways like, it's the same thing with institutional and structural racism or systemic racism, right? Like, the people who are involved in institutional racism, systemic racism, they don't realize often, and like I would say for the vast majority, that they are actually upholding the very systems that may oppress other people. They don't even think about that. No one does. You don't just reflect upon society on a regular basis and be like, well, you know what? I think I might be upholding white supremacist power structures, and I should stop that. This is a bad thing. It's one of those similar topics to when you discuss someone about what it is to have like privilege or stuff of that nature. Ultimately, the discussion is a difficult one to have, and so I would agree that if you're trying to advocate for something, especially if you're trying to advocate for Indigenous rights, you should be doing so in a way that is going to get more people open to learning more about these rather than shutting the conversation down. That is an important part. Didn't know what to talk to you about this video not too long ago. This video is brand new. This one just came out.
Not what Professor Flowers was saying. Her point was that colonization is an ongoing process, and choosing to ignore this fact makes it impossible for us to truly reconcile with its legacy. Anyone with a baseline understanding of these issues that saw the debate understood that this was the perspective she was coming from, and that Vaush trying to frame this as somehow being racist against white people was, to use an Among Us term, sus.
Why is the context of oppression irrelevant? Why is the context of who has power irrelevant?
Because, and I'll say it once more, and this is why you should really check your racism, my friend. White people and colonizers aren't the same group. The people who are white in South Africa are regular humans who live their lives. They are not physical.
Colonization is still happening. Like, America.
They are, yes, the concept of colonization is happening.
Look, I'm going to do a perfect centrism here and say that, like, yeah, there's a problem coming from Vaush as well. Like, if you start trying to paint people as being just part of a single group, or if you start trying to say, hey, by the way, like, what you're doing is basically very similar to what white supremacists will say, or this line of reasoning is the same line of reasoning that I hear from someone who's a neo-Nazi. So by that, you know, I'm not saying that you are directly a neo-Nazi or that you are, you know, the same thing as a white supremacist, but it's just unusual to me that you would be using the exact same terms and language that I also hear from white supremacists. That kind of poisons the well, right? Sorry, I know we're going to avoid logical fallacies and debate terms in this, but it doesn't also further the discourse either. It doesn't open this up to anything other than, at which point there's no way to hear that, especially like if I was having a conversation with someone and they told me, you know, what you're saying is like basically the exact same thing I heard out of Hitler, then I'm going to shut down as well. I'm going to be like, what the ever-loving fuck are you talking about? And then boom, we're just in a complete adversarial thing. There's not going to be a discussion, or at least a broader conversation that doesn't involve both of us now, you know, firing at each other.
Do not then get to attack 6 million ethnic minorities in a country. That's what you're doing. You're taking a sociological problem and making it a race problem, which is, by the way, what conservatives do to black people.
In this debate, Vaush employed the argument of the fear of retribution because, as members of the gamer zone tend to do, he was testing the limits of her moral framework using an extreme hypothetical, which is a very normal thing to do. It's one of the most normal things you can do, actually.
So you're saying that hypotheticals have no value? What, are you too stupid to understand how they work? The ability to imagine made-up scenarios and argue about them is what distinguishes sentient life from animal.
Shut up, dude. No, I don't have a problem with hypotheticals as a concept. I do, however, have a problem with people being framed as endorsing the extreme outcomes of these hypotheticals.
It's not even like anything PF said was that extreme either. It's ethnic cleansing.
When they never would have argued for them in the first place had they not been brought to the table.
Like, I haven't heard the full clip, so someone's going to say I'm talking about this out of context, but there's a difference in talking about the oppression of a people versus, like, the colonizer versus the colonized, right? The person who is directly, like, it's the idea, if you had someone in the gallows and you had the two people who are keeping that person in chains standing there being like, you know, should you ever not be in chains, would you put us in chains? And we simply can't entertain that idea, because should you ever do that, I mean, that would be a very bad thing. It's not good to put people in gallows. So say the people who have put you in gallows kind of thing, right? I think that's kind of where the problem would be, trying to directly state that, like, well, this is just going to be reverse genocide.
By Vaush, or whichever debate lord they are encountering. In multiple conversations since, Vaush has attributed this escalation in rhetoric to Professor Flowers. Escalations like equating land back to genocide. Here he is talking with indigenous activist Morgan Khashoggi about land back. Morgan and Vaush are referencing Professor Flowers in the
I'm going to say, for the record, this was an amazing conversation. I loved this conversation. I'm very happy that he platformed her. Like, I know a lot of the pushback's often going to be like, what do people do with their platforms? You know, someone has done something as horrible as Vaush has done with the Professor Flowers thing, that there's no redemption possible. But, like, listening to this conversation was like a breath of fresh air from everything else I'd been hearing for fucking weeks when it came to indigenous issues in the online, like, sphere, from people just straight up doing weird ass shit like Lawrence Southern does in the whole, like, you know, genocide denial side of the camp, to other people on the other end saying that land back, fucking what was Peter Coffin and Caleb and all the patriotic socialists saying that land back has actually been taken by an NGO, and that it's Amazon based, and that Jeff Bezos, it's actually just another form of capitalism, and blah blah blah, so we have to talk about land reform and not land back. And I was like, that's fucking that's very, like, fatherly of you, Caleb. Very nice of you to say what indigenous people should and should not do with their land because you think it's some kind of bourgeois institution. Meanwhile, every other bourgeois institution that exists in the meantime is just going to finally get a pass in this. Like, it's Jesus.
This clip.
It feels like a very virtue signaling thing sometimes, to be very in favor of decolonization. Like, yeah, pro-land back. But then when it actually comes to talking about these issues and actually, like, reconciling, like, sometimes it can get, I think, a little bit, well, there's a clear dissonance. So
it's not that people are getting it so wrong. It's just we need to smooth some wrinkles out so that people don't start, using really inflammatory language to describe how we feel about our own problems.
The weird part is that Professor Flowers never spoke on these issues on the terms of genocide until she spoke with Vaush, which should be of no surprise to anyone familiar with Debate Bros. Over the course of all these interactions, the first time the word genocide is ever used is here at 4 minutes and 45 seconds into their debate, and it's not mentioned by Professor Flowers.
When you take a look at a lot of black separatist communities, there are a lot of underlying reactionary tendencies like homophobia, anti-Semitism. It seems like the fundamental bones are pretty similar, and then when you get into the logistics of creating an ethno-state, there's not really any way to do that without genocide, you know? Like, take South Africa, right? I mean, it's all well and good to talk about living free of your oppressors, but when you break apartheid in South Africa, there are millions of white people living in that country. Like, what do? Do you just, like, ship them all out? Do you build camps? I mean, it seems like this logic always leads down a really bad road.
Isolate that last quote. It seems like this logic always leads down a really bad road. That conception right there, that limit testing ideology, is precisely what causes the inflammatory language to start being used in these conversations. The same language that the actual land-backed activists said was causing so many problems.
Using really inflammatory language to describe how we feel about our own problems.
There's not really any way to do that without genocide, you know?
Discussing ideas in this manner by pulling them to the extremes in a combative context is especially damaging with topics like black separatism, a topic that the white online left has repeatedly demonstrating having very little knowledge about, and thanks to Vaush and others, very little willingness to inquire further. Vaush just says they're Nazis in reverse, and everyone's like, okay, cool.
Black separatism is essentially just the black version of white nationalism.
All of this has been explained ad nauseum in these videos, but the YouTuber Carr, he has a great channel by the way, go check him out, he explains why this is ignorant as clearly as I've seen anyone do in this clip from Professor Flowers' last video. Let's see if people will get it this time. 147th time's the charm.
I'd like to set the record straight on black separatism because a lot of people seem to get it wrong in online spaces. The best way, I think, to visualize it for anyone listening, separatism is basically self-determination and creating as much space away from your oppressors as possible, allowing you to act upon that self-determination. If that creating space from oppressors requires violence, then it requires violence. It doesn't have to, though. You can talk about Rosewood, Tulsa, you can talk about MOVE in Philadelphia. MOVE was a black separatist movement, and the cops bombed it, and they killed 8 children, and they burnt down a block of townhomes. So this organization was not responsible for anyone being hurt in their town whatsoever. They literally just wanted to do what they saw, mind you, white people doing throughout the country, building compounds and building their own internal insular support networks and dual power structures. That's ultimately what separatism is about, is creating that space between the oppressors and the oppressed or plundered people so that they can act.
How is this a good argument? What he's talking about when he's talking about Tulsa is like, that's a direct example of black Americans doing exactly what is constantly told by the Ben Shapiro's, Jordan Peterson's, all that kind of stuff, where it's just like, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, make something of yourselves. Don't look for handouts, don't look for welfare, don't look for anything like that. Why don't you actually build something? And then when they did, it got burnt to the fucking ground is kind of example. And that example that it's using is specifically to state that, like, this had nothing to do with forming a black ethno-state. This had nothing to do with genociding white people. This had to do with black people trying to create their own economic system within the framework of, America as it certainly stands.
Upon that self-determination. It's never been about ethnic cleansing. It's been about creating a safe distance.
It's ethnic cleansing. I don't get it.
We saw the same problem with hypotheticals arise in Vaush's recent debate with YouTuber Non-Compete, where he opposed this hypothetical regarding Jews being overrepresented in banking during the Weimar Republic.
But how is it different if the result is the same? The result being that there is no genocide taking place. Like, Tulsa didn't exist in opposition to try and dominate white people. That wasn't the reason that it was built. That wasn't the reason there was a Black Wall Street. They weren't doing that because they were trying to gain X amount of power so they could eventually create a genocide of the white race. That wasn't the purpose of it.
Whenever people have been enslaved, if they rise up and use violence to liberate themselves, then that is probably acceptable because they had material conditions in which they...
Like the Nazis?
Rising up against the Nazis was acceptable, yes.
No. After World War I, the Nazis claimed that Jewish bankers were holding the country down.
And that was false consciousness because that wasn't actually happening.
How can you tell?
That was false consciousness. Their ideology was not aligned with reality.
How can you tell?
Because Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vaush, we're done here. Thank you.
No, I'm going to have to push back on Noah for this one, I think.
That's all I need to hear.
You don't have an ethical... Oh my god. I'd run too if I was him. In case anyone's curious about what's happening there, that guy was actually too stupid to have a conversation with.
Oh, Jesus Christ, why did I ever watch this stuff? In response to Non-Compete's claim that no, the Jews did not control the banks,
Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
Vaush responds with, actually, yes, they did.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of...
No. That one's not fair. I'll push back on this for the video essay. Saying that they have a disproportionate amount of control by ratio of their population, which was what, less than 5% at the time. They did not control the banking sector. The 4 major banks at the time in Germany, one of them had a Jewish member who was leading that bank, but the idea that they were Jewish controlled is not the same thing. I think we're conflating those two immediately. What needs to be added to that, like the caveat, is that eventually it was used as a scapegoat and part of a way to excuse the financial troubles that Germany was having. So the incredibly high increase, the inflation that Germany was experiencing, a lot of that, they started to vilify the Jewish people and other them and use them as a result, as an excuse. And this is the reason you were having all these problems. This is the reason why Germany is suffering. That part is the conspiratorial part that has to be called out. That when the alt-right or whatever come across this and they talk about this, that is the part that is 100% falsifiable. There was a number of Jewish lenders, private lenders, that's different than them controlling the banks themselves. But in this statement, and I think this is something that has been going back and forth multiple times over this issue, Vaush did not say they controlled the banks, and that's important, right? Because he said they didn't control the banks, and then his response was there was a disproportion. And yes, I'm sure he's using this as an inflammatory way to try and goat Non-Compete in this point, but saying that they have a disproportionate representation in the banking sector by ratio of their population. Well, he didn't add that part. I think he should have I already made an entire video on this on why I think both sides are getting parts of this wrong.
Banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vaush, we're done here.
He doubles down on this claim in a follow-up video days later by arguing that this is a statistically accurate reading of history.
The critical thing here is that for me...
He used the word control. All right, let me rewind.
All right, Vaush, we're done here. Thank you. Good.
He's claimed that Jewish bankers were holding the country down.
And that was false consciousness because that wasn't actually happening.
How can you tell?
That was false consciousness. Their ideology was not aligned with reality.
How can you tell?
Because Jews don't actually control banks in the world.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
Okay, then yeah, that's wrong. You can't say control. That's exactly, yeah, okay. So that's where the problem is. You couldn't say that they were disproportionately controlling the banks. You could say that there was a disproportionate representation of Jewish people in the banking sector by ratio of their population.
All right, Vaush, we're done here. Thank you. Goodbye. This is That's all I need to hear.
You don't have an ethical... Oh my god. I'd run too if I was him. In case anyone's curious about what's happening there, that guy was actually too stupid to have a conversation with.
Oh, Jesus Christ, why did I ever watch this stuff? In response to Non-Compete's claim that no, the Jews did not control the banks.
That's splitting hairs? Well, not really, because if you say that someone is controlling the banking sector, which is something that was like eventually used as like part of the excuse when they were trying to say the conspiracy theory, that it was that like the woes of the German economy could be blamed upon Jewish control of banks. That's not the same as saying that there was an overrepresentation of Jewish people in the financial sector or the banking sector of Germany at that time, which again, like if you're coming at this from that angle of like lefties don't want to acknowledge history, or they don't want to acknowledge facts, like if someone comes up to you and says 1350 and your response to that is just made up or a lie, right? I agree with the pushback on that, because you shouldn't be saying that like these statistics are just straight up lies. You should be explaining the why. Why is that? Why exactly is there an overrepresentation of black people in those statistics? And can we explain that? And we certainly can. No question about it, right? But you also have to acknowledge in the history and the context of this to be able to state that this isn't like there's a part of it that is, again, there's an overrepresentation of people, and that if anything should be something that speaks speaks highly of Jewish people and the things they accomplished. Is the ultimate point at the very end of this, could any of that be used as a justification even if it were true? The answer is, of course, no. 100% no, categorically.
banks in the world.
Vaush responds with, actually, yes they did.
There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic.
All right, Vaush, we're done here.
He doubles down on this claim in a follow-up video days later by arguing that this is a statistically accurate reading of history.
The critical thing here is that for me saying that there was a disproportionate amount of Jewish control of the banks in the Weimar Republic, a bunch of people online are calling me a Nazi. Like everywhere, it's like a whole meme thing. And the weird thing is, as I understood when going into the debate and then have such looked into and have found that yes, this is the case, there was.
The reason
Well, Avi, you're saying I'm still splitting hairs. I'm not. The use of the word control, it's not like just this, it's semantics. There's a very, like, that is actually a key point here that has to be addressed, right? Whether or not people were controlling the banking sector, and in turn, because of that control, were responsible for the problems that were happening to the German economy, that is falsifiable. Like, that is not true. It doesn't stand up to historical scrutiny. If you say that there was a disproportion of people who were Jewish represented in the financial sector, that is a true statement because of the ratio, by ratio of the population of the people who were Jewish in Germany at the time.
Compete hung up here wasn't because his ethical system had been exposed or whatever these guys are always talking about.
You don't have an ethical... Oh my god.
But because even engaging with this claim that Jews controlled the banks at any level of historical specificity cedes the entire argument to the fascists. Whether they did or not should be irrelevant. The real question is, why would this matter? I'm dropping a quick tactical Zizek nuke here because it's relevant regarding the topic of debates with racists and fascists.
Why is this false? Because the Nazis here, even if it were to be true, but it wasn't, of course, they lied in the guise of truth. Because the true question is not, is it true what they are claiming about the Jews? The true question is why, in order to sustain their politics, they need this fantasy of the Jew. Why they need this phantasmatic figure of the Jew. And incidentally, it's the same, I think, even today with Iraq. Here I think that many fake leftists fell into the trap of accepting the terms of the debate. The true question is not, is it true what they claim about Saddam? The true question is a totally different one, is what kind of new logic of hegemony, new world order is established in
the clip that he's choosing to use here actually backs up, I think, Vaush's point more than it does the other one. Because of Vaush's point at the end of all that, even with my pushback in that whether or not that they were overrepresentational, would that defend the actions that they took upon the Jewish people? The answer, of course, is no. I think Zizek is backing his point up there.
And so on and so on. Even to accept these terms and then to argue, you put yourself into a totally idiotic position, you know. When there you have to argue, oh, but it's not so bad, some people nonetheless supported Saddam. That's not our debate, my God.
No, I don't think Vaush is an anti-Semite, but I wouldn't be terribly upset at anyone who got this impression after seeing Vaush uncritically repeat this false Nazi talking point and then double down on it, or if they'd encountered the legions of Vaush fans spending hours online after the debate arguing that yes, actually the Jews did control the banks before the Holocaust because my favorite streamer said so. It's these sorts of nonsense magic fairy tale wonderland hypotheticals that have no use outside of the performative debate context that end up leaving a lasting impression on the internet. These little Vaush freaks flocked to non-compete to call him technically pro-Nazi, when their streamer was the one spreading Nazi misinformation. Part of my issue with debate streams is that misinformation like this is so easy to spread, yet so difficult to correct. It's why this video has to be 2 fucking hours long and take weeks of work to make.
I have to run for a bio break, but I don't want to miss any of this because it's so interesting. I'm going to just slow it down to 0.25. You'll understand why, and it's just totally, don't worry, this won't ruin any of the experience for any of you.
Stream for 8 hours a day and say shit like this.
Alright, I'll just speak to you.
Completely ignoring the real world complexities of these issues and reducing them to fun little rhetorical games to be used for dunking on other YouTubers. That guy was actually too stupid
stupid to have a conversation with.
Then all their fans start spreading this shit around the internet uncritically and wonder why people call them Nazis.
A bunch of people online are calling me a Nazi. There was a disproportionate number of Jewish control of banks in Germany during the Weimar Republic. This is really weird to me.
I've seen an accusation thrown around the internet that Vaush is a Pedialyte drinker because of a number of older clips from his stream.
Okay, we're going back to normal. Skull Prism, I've got a video on the Serf Times. I brought up all the stats, the figures, the numbers. You can go watch it there.
Where he brings up things like chimichangas, Pedialyte, not unlike the examples we just looked at. Now, Gary, I need you, man.
Hey.
So straight up, these clips are weird as fuck. So fucking weird. Weird and wrong as arguments. I'm not going to play them because I am hanging on to a single shred of hope that this video will still be able to get monetized. It probably won't though. But Gary?
Well, despite Noah's objections to these clips and their apparent sussiness, there isn't anything in them that would merit the claim that Vaush is a
Pedialyte drinker.
That is a very serious accusation to be making, and to make it without solid proof is dangerous, and we should not normalize doing that.
Oh wait, are we doing the pedophile stuff? Is that the next segment?
Thanks, man.
Okay.
So at some point in time, Vaush stopped using these extreme examples involving children in hypotheticals, probably because using them only encouraged people to make these spurious but not out of nowhere accusations against him. So if he understands that handling these sensitive topics carelessly can have negative consequences and has adjusted his behavior accordingly in the past when they've affected him, why can't he do the same for others? As we've seen, the effects are real. Professor Flowers is the target of a harassment campaign spurred on by Vaush with his use of this hypothetical about the fear of retribution. Non-Compete was accused of technically defending Nazism because Vaush, through his little rhetorical game, justified this treatment in their eyes. He is either choosing to ignore these facts or just doesn't care, and both of these should be unacceptable, right? There's a great thread from a streamer called Ask Vera that runs.
I would say, oh, this is the person who called me out today. I think there's something definitely to be said about don't go attacking people based on maybe a parasocial relationship you formed with somebody. Attack the arguments. Attack the arguments. Like you can go in there and be like, I disagree with you because of blank. Don't go in there and be like, well, and this goes for both sides, right? Don't go in there and be like, well, non-compete is a Nazi, Vaush is a pedophile, or anything like that. You can do that without directly attacking the people on the behalf of your favorite streamer.
Through the standard procedure of interactions with debate streamers and how they are a recurring problem. Number 4 is especially relevant here. Reactionary debaters smuggle assumptions into hypotheticals, hoping you get distracted with the hypothetical rather than challenge the assumption. This is precisely what happened to Professor Flowers regarding the topic of genocide, and this distraction has forced her onto her back foot ever since. Here she is talking about it in her final video on the topic.
So there are a lot of people who are saying that I'm genocidal, and I just want to clear up what I mean. What I mean to say is that there is no amount of violence that colonized people can enact towards their colonizers that will ever compare to what colonizers have done to them. That compares to the millions of kidnapped and enslaved people, to the thousands of years of history and way of life that has been wiped out, to the languages that have been lost, to the entire caste system that has been created, to the relocation and murder of millions, to the subjugation of entire nations, and to the subjugation and profit of stolen land.
She is right. Do I need to explain that further? Hopefully not, because I'm not gonna.
It's not my job to educate you.
But I want you to watch how Vaush reacts to this clip on his stream.
There is no amount of violence that colonized people can enact towards their colonizers that will ever compare to what colonizers have done to them. That compares
What does that mean? First of all, that's not what she meant, because that's a totally different concept. Is that even like relevant? What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
History and way of life that has been wiped out, to the languages that have been lost, to the
Also, doesn't this kind of support my argument? This seems very strange to me, because it feels like the implicit suggestion is that the violence that colonized people do is okay because it could never be enough. You know what I mean?
So Professor Flowers says
Cygnus, I have
these
it like
things
literally
cannot be
behind me. The
compared,
Wretched of
and
the
attempting
Earth.
to do so
It's awesome read.
downplays this very real history of oppression. Again, an objectively true statement. And to this, Vaush responds, "You claim to not want to do white genocide, yet you cite historical oppression, which could be used to justify white genocide. Huh. Curious. Very curious indeed. Checkmate, Nazi." So, this is racist, right? Am I allowed to say that yet?
I think what you mean to
Noah came on to Vaush's stream after this video and they discussed it. Now I'm so morbidly curious. I can't imagine that went well.
say is that while this individual act may not be racist, the way this flow of information has been set up has led to a racist outcome. That outcome being Professor Flowers discussing historical oppressions here is seen as a potential justification for retributive violence, which was never her point and not how these claims should be viewed, especially from anyone claiming to be on the left.
Yeah, so it's racist.
Okay.
Thanks to their debate, which in effect served to legitimize this fear of retribution rhetoric, a white supremacist narrative is being repeated all over the place, making it so that topics requiring nuanced discussion, like black separatism and black nationalism, are framed as being not only inherently violent, but equivalent to Nazism. If we take a quick peek at some of the chats from that stream, it's quite interesting. Mom said it's time for me to be the colonizer. It's a pro-genocide argument, basically saying that the image of white people in chains while MLK smiles in the sky is based. That is
okay, but like I don't think you can you can't say that this is going to be used as ammunition. That like using a chat as basically ammo for something. I mean, if you looked at the Twitch chat that is going on right now, it is actually both chats are divided on both sides. Half of what I say, I'll have half the people like, yes, true, and the other half be like, Lance, how can you side with them about this? And then the other half, when I say something in defense of the other person, it's like, whoa, cringe, what, yikes, can't believe that, Lance, right? So I wouldn't like now screenshot these pictures and be like, well, that's directly what Lance believes. You can tell. Look at the screenshot. This is happening right now.
Her saying that a white genocide is justified. So that means
so true and also cringe. Do you see what's happening? So true. Wait, that got deleted? Why did you delete so true? Who deleted so true and almost cringe?
reverse genocide, good. Leftism, it's good. Leftism, we love it.
It's happening right now. I'm gonna get now. There's gonna be so many like little screenshots that are put onto Twitter. It's like, oh yeah, look at what people are saying in Lance's Discord.
Life that has been wiped out, to the languages that have been lost, to the entire.
The type of audience you cultivate can say a lot. Yes, absolutely. But I think once you reach the size of a like I don't know, a 4, 5, 8,000 viewer Andy, like I would never take Hassan's stream chat and then put like clips of it and be like, well, based on these clips, you can really say what Hassan believes, you know.
Caste system that has been created.
Our resident critical race theory scholar, Xanderhal, elaborates here.
I'm going to say this right now.
Yeah, Wilco's point would be more salient, right? If the streamer is encouraging that viewpoint, if the streamer himself is saying something and then the chat is agreeing with, yes, by all means, that would be a direct example to look at the audience you're cultivating kind of thing, or look at the way that your audience is responding to you.
People say woke genocide to refer to like the black separatist stuff. It's kind of racist. I'm going to be honest here, because it's not woke. All you're doing is putting woke before something that has to do with brown people because it has to do with brown people. It's not woke. There's nothing about what.
Is that a thing though? Do people talk about that and say that it's woke genocide? I don't think I've ever seen that.
Professor Flowers or Black Hammer or any of these people advocate for that is woke. Being woke is advocating for integration and cooperation, okay? A multicultural, multi-ethnic, multiracial movement to fight against
yes, I've seen it in chat. Oh, all right.
Groups of people down, right? That is woke. Segregation, even if it's, well, we're black people and we want segregation. That is not woke. Just because brown people are doing it doesn't make it woke.
Oh, that's just great stuff. We love it. Leftism is when reverse racism is the scariest thing you can think of. Mom, can you pick me up, please? They're not being colorblind. There's a good clip from the YouTuber Bad Empanada that explains how ridiculous it is to try to make this comparison.
Let's imagine a different world where white people did all the same thing and the black people were more radical and they were like, You know, we want you guys to get the fuck out of here. You know, we're not just going to forgive you for centuries and centuries of oppression, for enforcing apartheid upon us for 100 years. We want you gone. Would that be the same thing as Nazism? No, not even fucking.
LOL, Lance O'Neill, no. Well, I'll explain why. I've said this multiple times. I think Bad Empanada's YouTube content is absolutely fantastic. I would recommend it time and time again if you want to learn about issues surrounding South and Central America. And then Bad Empanada, the Twitter account, is just such a different thing entirely. There's times when I sit there in complete, like, I don't know, wonder as to how this can be the same person making both things.
Close, man. Truly unbelievable. And do I think that would be an ideal solution? Also, no. Is that what I would want?
Don't get me wrong. Bad Empanada is not the only person who does that. There's a lot of people who, on one end, like their Twitter behavior versus their, like, I guess, video essay behavior are two entirely different things. There's people who get accused of that a lot, which I don't particularly agree with. And I know everyone here is going to be upset at my take here. But I don't, like, read Sean's tweets and think, like, whoa, Sean, this is completely different than Sean, the video essayist, right? And I know a lot of people feel that way. So there's a controversial take. There you go. I'll see both of my chats attack me for that. But Bad Empanada is probably the most striking combination of that. Like, it's the biggest dichotomy where I'm just like, are you posting pictures of someone who is not Hunter Avallone, saying that is Hunter Avallone as a Nazi, and then doubling down when Hunter Avallone is like, that's not a picture of me. That's from like an old Lawrence Southern school video or something like that. Like, it's just, I'm just like, I don't know how to explain it, to be completely honest.
Also, no. Can I understand it? Abso-fucking-lutely, yes.
Did you really just cite Bad Empanada in your video? Looks like
okay.
you've lost me. That guy is a bad person. Everybody knows that.
Me citing a clip of Bad Empanada saying something that's objectively true is not an endorsement of everything that he has done on the internet. Please stop being a fucking baby. Just look at the meme, okay? Look at the meme.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's really
I feel seen. I feel seen right now.
helpful for me, actually.
I was slowly swinging around your baby's crib so you can gently fall asleep.
Okay, thank you.
Now, from my perspective, Vaush...
Oh, man. See, this is... I wish more people were able to find a sense of humor in themselves or just laugh at themselves, to be totally honest with you. Because I could see someone seeing that and like, fucking, what the fuck? No, you don't understand. Bad Empanada, Twitter. It's toxic. This whole thing.
seems to be defensive about these ideas because he is operating on some underlying assumptions about who Professor Flowers is, assumptions that were created when they had their debate. There's an extremely relevant video that I'd like to plug here. Debate Me, How to Know Things on YouTube, from Scottish neoliberalism understander John the Duncan. Please go watch this, especially if you watch Vaush. Sorry, John, to have to send them your way, but the debate bro deprogramming industrial complex has to start somewhere, and your two videos will be our foundational texts. But this one addresses many core issues of online debate culture, one of them being how knowledge is created in these spaces, and how this knowledge, gathered through the act of debate, is often held supreme above all other forms, and how this is maybe...
That's why Noah is refreshing. I agree, actually. I think Noah might be the only person with the tool set to have opened something as spicy as this call-out video. Or maybe, like, call-out video is kind of disingenuous. It feels reductionist. I would say more, like... Is it just like the purpose? So let's not forget the thesis of this video when he started it, right? He wants to be able to further the conversation. He's not looking to shut debate bros down, but he wants people to be more self-aware of some of these things, so that so we can better just online leftism as a whole, you know, the show whole kind of theory. So I think a lot of other people wouldn't be as as gifted comedically as Noah is, and while not everything has been 100% correct, I think there's a couple things to point out, particularly when it comes to Vaush talking to that land back activist. There's a couple issues I take with that part of the video so far, but they are difficult topics overall. Like, you know, I said when I was talking about it, I'm going to do a speed run with the concept of colonization right now, and why I don't use the term colonizer and colonized when talking to people about issues like land back. So like, maybe you need someone like Noah Samson to make us see some of these things. And hell, I'm not even in this video yet, and I've been called out. I was just called out in real time for the bad empanada part, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful. I feel clean. It was like an enema. This whole video is basically an enema. That's my review.
maybe not the best thing for the left.
I think the issue.
Oh, okay. I haven't finished it yet, Volpes. Don't give away the ending.
Debate is that it further embedded the idea that debate is a legitimate way of finding out whether something is correct and true. This is another example of YouTube's structures influencing how knowledge is produced. The platform encourages certain types of content, which then impacts how both viewers and other content creators view knowledge creation. And this might not be an issue if debate related at all to any sort of truth. And the problem is, it doesn't.
So Vaush's defensiveness, or inability to sort of stop being a silly guy, is a byproduct of this overvaluing of what debate actually is. From Vaush's perspective, Professor Flowers is who she showed herself to be in that debate, and this, above all other things, is the information upon which we should base all of our subsequent attitudes and treatment towards her.
Well, to be fair, Noah, he is a debate streamer. That's his medium. That is how he gathers his information, by talking to people. How else is he supposed to know what they're all about?
That's kind of the issue, Gary. The hypothetical answer to this question is that he can actually watch their videos. He can listen to what they're saying when they've put a lot of effort into researching and presenting their arguments. But this form of listening is antithetical to his content format. In order to retain his position as standing rhetorical genius supreme...
Noah, bad faith, bad faith.
Okay, in order to keep his stream moving and entertaining, he often skips around looking for arguments that he can try to respond to in these videos, or pauses before the points have been fully argued. He actually did the former with FD Signifier's Break Bread, which is disappointing because there was a lot of particularly relevant information in that video.
The scary reality is that the very homogenous nature of their fan bases,
Where's my
who
face?
are fresh out of radical hate-filled movements, and for now, they're...
Yeah, I don't... Nah, I don't. Yeah, I'm not. Again, like, this is too generous, but the idea that anyone who does debates are like, oh, it's just sophistry, and like, they're not as smart as the video essayists, and they're just like, you know, they just do rhetoric, but they don't really have any real, like this, like, yeah, no, I don't know.
He acknowledges later in that clip that he isn't giving the video a fair shot and says to go watch it, which is good.
I'm jumping in on this bit at the end, interpreting every statement as though it applies to me, and responding defensively to it. So this is not like a fair representation of the video as a whole. I'd encourage you all to look at the whole video yourselves.
But still, this format presents a clear dilemma to our ability to exchange information. This is documented in Professor Flowers' videos, where she shows the way Vaush doesn't ever actually engage with her arguments in an honest manner.
Now, for the rest of the stream, Vaush skips over the segment where I talk about nationalism in the context of colonized people and enslaved people versus white nationalism. He also skips the part where I talk about black separatism, black supremacy, and even racism. It's an important part to skip, and unfortunately Vaush doesn't realize that this addresses many of his accusations.
Again, those are all linked below. More homework to get through before the next time I post, which at this rate will probably be in like July. So you got plenty of time. Don't procrastinate. Make sure you turn in your FAFSA as well. Don't want to miss out on that big old bag of cash. So if we are choosing to ignore all of that and just rely on debate streams for our information, you can probably see the problem this creates, right? No matter how many times Professor Flowers says that genocide is not and was never something that she nor any land back or decolonization activists were talking about, in Vaush and his audience's mind, she will always be the person in this clip.
What do you think of the 6 million white people who live in that country? Do you think the black people, who are by far the majority, have a right to remove the white population?
I think that they would have a right to do that, but I think that would be really harsh, and I think that they're not even going to do that.
Out of curiosity, do you know how many Jews died in the Holocaust?
It's so funny to watch these gotcha moments happen when he gets people caught in these little traps. You can see the excitement on his face. It's like when the shark from Nemo first smells blood.
I think that they would have a right to do that, but I think that would be really harsh, and I think that they're not even going to do that.
Do you know how many Jews died in the Holocaust?
So to them, she will always be the person that stumbled over the oh-so-simple question of genocide. You're gonna say but? Really? You're gonna say the B word after I just said the G word? Oh, so you want to kill white people then? Okay, I can't believe this. This is so messed up. I'm literally being murdered right now. The problem with these exchanges lacking any sort of nuance was explained perfectly here by the indigenous activist Morgan Khashoggi in her conversation with Vaush. In this clip, she is referencing one of the follow-up conversations turned debates that Professor Flowers had with another streamer.
One of the ways that I saw that was when Dr. Heemdout had said, well, you know, I'm an immigrant and I believe that everybody has a right to live where they live. which is an idea that I agree with. So he says, well, why can't I just live where I live? And Professor Flowers says, well, because you're living on stolen land, and that land is still stolen. And that's also true. Both of these opinions are valid opinions to have, but neither of them fully encapsulate the nuance of what it is to be an Indigenous person repping the land back movement.
Okay, fantastic.
Great point, Morgan. Pitting two perspectives against one another in order to find a victor is probably bad if we want to learn anything about these multifaceted issues. I wonder why people are doing that.
You do not then get to attack 6 million ethnic minorities in a country. That's what you're doing.
Me, when someone tells me that my entire online presence creates an irredeemable intellectual vacuum.
Okay, fantastic.
Hassan had some relevant words on the shortcomings of knowledge acquired through debate.
My main goal isn't to fucking thrive on being the big-brained intellectual titan, because when you do that, that just means they are still responding simply to power. You're not actually creating or crafting an argument or showing people a different worldview. You're just simply the big bad gladiator, the intellectual gladiator, and as long as you continue being that guy, they will fucking give you money and give you praise because they think you're the smartest guy in the room, because that's the only way they can understand who is smart or not.
I apologize for most of this video being me playing clips of other people making my points for me, but not gonna lie, I'm not that smart.
Noah Samson's a fucking idiot.
I'm good at making YouTube videos and talking about other YouTubers, but that's about it. Please don't copyright claim me. You're being paid in exposure. You're welcome, Hassan. But this is what people mean when they talk about how debate streams are all about winning and domination. Vaush beat Professor Flowers in this debate. He won.
Yeah, I know. That's something people accuse me of too. They're like, Lance, you can't say that you're just like a comedian online when you're talking about politics. You have to actually like represent yourself, and like that was a criticism I got from him, and I agree with him. I think there's like, my mind on this one is usually that I think some people in these spaces, they take themselves way too seriously, and that's something like I like to fight against. In that, like, people, if they consider themselves to be like some intellectual juggernaut or, you know, titan or whatever it is, I try to tell them that we're entertainers by definition. Like, people need to acknowledge that. I hope first and foremost, and hopefully that you are an educator as well as an entertainer, and hopefully you are able to advocate for things, and hopefully you are able to use your platform to promote a lot of really good lefty things. But you are not the front line of the vanguard. You are not like, you know, the next Joseph Stalin or whoever you think you are. You are not like, and also you shouldn't be like, Robert Evans puts this really well in one of his podcast episodes where he's like, a lot of people, because they have parasocial relationships with online celebrities or personalities or whatever, think, oh, I really want them to also now lead a movement and do that. And it's like, and they shouldn't be the ones doing that. They should be the ones promoting that. They should be the ones amplifying those voices and helping them along the way. But like, you get too much problem when you have someone who's not only already got this big parasocial audience, but also someone who has this big ego that comes from having a platform, that comes from having, like, you know, 500 people are watching me right now. So that could give me delusions of grandeur. I could be sitting here and being like, well, I'm an authority. Like, yeah, there's 500 of you that could type in the chat right now and disagree with me, but you mean nothing to me. Yes, that's right. You're just words on a screen. None of you can like refute my points. I am the omega, the alpha, and the lambda. Try. Just try. You'll never succeed. None of you will. Look at you trying. None of you are succeeding. Look at this. It's happening in real time right now. And then Hassan is an even bigger one, right? He's got 40,000 or 50,000, like, you know, 10,000 times the amount of people watching. And all of a sudden it's like, yes, no one could ever defeat him because he is a titan of these things.
He proved to the cheering Coliseum crowd that she is the bad, dumb lady, and he is the good, smart guy. That's how it will exist in his mind and the minds of his audience of hundreds of thousands of people until, well, forever, it seems like. Far smarter people than me have tried to explain.
Don't leave. It was totally a joke, please. No, I crave every single one of you. I need you as much as you need me. Trust me, this parasocial relationship goes both ways. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't click away.
Why this shit is ridiculous and reinforces white supremacy online, but none have prevailed. The debate zone might just be an impenetrable bubble of stupidity.
Hey.
Okay, that one was a bit harsh.
Thank you.
The debate zone is definitely not an impenetrable bubble of stupidity.
Is that sarcasm?
Nope.
All right, carry on.
I've seen that.
Here's my example of exceptions to the rule. Matt Binder. Matt Binder says frequently on his program, I will talk to someone live on my stream who has an opposing view to me. I will bring them on and we will have a discussion because he wants to explore the issues and he also wants to see what the pushback will be and he wants to defend his positions in real time. And he's also not someone who does that and tries to make it into an entire scene, right? It's not like, all right, the next Matt Binder debate is coming up. It's going to be a bloodbath. Just you wait. It's that he has obviously a lot of political opinions and he wants to voice them. And if someone has a very strong disagreement and they don't happen to be someone who's like, just horrifying, then yes, he will be like, okay, I'll bring you on the show. We'll have a talk. We'll have a conversation and a debate, whatever it is. And then you can present me with your evidence. I will come into this in good faith. And hopefully if there's new information that I did not know, then I may change my opinion on the matter. That is a good example of someone who does that on a regular basis, that I would not classify someone who does that as a debate bro.
Vaush is capable of having fruitful conversations with other leftists in the past. One great example is his talk with YouTuber and anarchist history PhD haver Zoe Baker in late 2020. Despite their ideological differences, they shared both of their perspectives on political strategy in a
Second example I'll throw for throwing these out. Hakeem and Vaush. I know they completely fell apart afterwards, but they went into that when they thought the whole thing was going to be a bloodbath. It was going to be Hakeem versus Vaush, the anti-tanky versus the tanky. We're going to see two worlds collide. Who will leave the ring? Turned out to be two people who actually were trying to see where they found common goals and how they could work together, kind of thing. Like, it was the exact opposite of what everyone thought it was going to be. And then afterwards, of course, yes, they've completely fallen apart. But there are examples of that happening even within the quote-unquote, debate bro scene.
Combative manner, and we're able to move forward with a better understanding of each other's views. But when it comes to talking with other leftists about issues he lacks perspective on, it mostly goes like this.
What an asshole!
Or like this.
Are you listening to a word that I'm saying?
Or this.
That guy was actually too stupid to have a conversation with.
Or this.
I'm starting to wonder if you're educated enough to have this conversation.
In before you say I'm clip chimping, cope and seethe, liberals. No, I'm just kidding. I don't say shit like that in real life. All of those full conversations are linked below. Go watch them and see if you can identify where and why they...
I definitely talk like that in real life. I'm just like, whoa, Poggies, this is PogChamp, all right, sussy. Ooh, yeah.
It went wrong. Hint.
Everyone understands me, it's great.
Talking about how he views these types of conversations that I think is very telling.
I'm going to put it this way, okay? I've talked to a decent number of lefty video essayists who disagree with me, and not one of them has come out looking good. You guys understand that, right? Like the times we've talked with the video essayists when they come to disagree, like this is not like I'm blinded by their intellect when they come over here. This is a very aesthetic obsession. The idea that like, oh, video essayists are smart because they have scripts.
Once again, he is implicitly reinforcing the idea that the gamer's marketplace of ideas is some supreme form of knowledge creation. And anyone who can't hang with his rhetoric must be
too stupid to have a conversation with.
He follows that up by saying this.
Well, you know what? What I do isn't easy. I don't have a script, and I never think about anything that I do. It's all just off the cuff, okay? I don't have any brain at all. This is just reflex. I'm not even thinking about what I say.
Okay, so he's joking here, and I really do appreciate Vaush's sense of humor. But where's the lie, though? Like, I'm not saying he has no brain. I'm saying it would be awesome if he took this I'm just a dumb streamer, no thoughts, head empty approach and actually operated as if he understood that. So, in a word, humility. But it's so strange how he can acknowledge this here in a joke.
I don't have any brain at all.
While simultaneously citing his rhetoric as being the peak of online intellectualism.
Okay, so I'll say two things on this matter, all right? It's going to be a Vaush bad and a Vaush rad. Or is it Vaush? What's the other one? It's Vaush bad and Vaush... It's not Vaush good. That doesn't rhyme. It's got to be Vaush bad and Vaush rad. Those are the two things, right? I agree. I think to a certain extent, if you approach, I don't know, online debates or what you do as a streamer as like being either an arbiter of truth or saying that like, my opponents are all like idiots because they are unable to, express themselves properly in a live format, like that can also speak a lot to the live format. There's something to be said about how video essayists spend months, researching, doing this, getting all the clips ready, editing it, putting it together, and then when they're in a live I don't know, arena or whatever you want to call it, they're like bleh, and then they come across looking utterly and completely foolish. And then there are people who like to advocate for that, saying that like I have destroyed every single prominent lefty. I remember Destiny gave a speech about that, how he's like, I've destroyed every single person who I've ever, he didn't use the word destroyed, but he's like, I've taken on every single big lefty person, the person who actually wrote the book on what is it, Paracon, I've destroyed Ben Burgess and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, and if you watch the Ben Burgess Burgess, the second one, the Ben Burgess versus Destiny debate, the whole thing is a complete blowout for Destiny because he's debating like a philosophy professor on issues, a lot of it which did not necessarily concern philosophy, but the whole thing suddenly becomes this like experiment in debate tactics aren't working in the way they normally do, right? Like the same debate tactics that I may have been able to use in other people aren't working on Ben Burgess because he happens to know a lot about the topic at hand, and he's not afraid to express himself properly in this format, so that can happen. On the other hand, the idea that like people and debate streamers just as a whole, they've got these impenetrable egos and that they're just 100% never ever going to change the position on issues, I can point you towards the example, and this one is directly related to Vaush, where when he was originally talking about a lot of issues related to Indigenous issues on that arc, I think that took place like a year ago, I ended up making a video, and the whole thing was an appeal. It was an appeal directly to Vaush, where I was like, Vaush, I want to just explain a handful of things that I think are getting mischaracterized here, especially in relation to Indigenous issues in Canada, and I want to use some comparisons. They're not direct comparisons, obviously. I can't compare what is going on to like Palestinians to what is going on to Indigenous people in Canada directly one-to-one. Of course not, that would not be fair, but I want to show you some parallels and explain it in a way that I think would make sense to anyone who stands on the side of Palestinians. And so would you look at that? He came back from that and afterwards was like, this is something that I'm effectively going to be changing my position on, because yes, the oppression of Indigenous people in Canada or in America is something that we should be fighting on the behalf of as leftists. So that is an important point. That is like something I usually point towards when I talk to people about like there is certainly just by nature of being like an online personality, a certain amount of ego that comes with it, right? But I don't think every single person is like an impenetrable, like people do change the positions. People can listen to feedback. It's not a complete effort in futility that like some people kind of try to paint it as.
Not one of them has come out looking good.
Being open to where your gaps in knowledge are makes things better for everyone involved in interactions. But most of the time, he does the exact opposite of that, and it can be hard to watch.
I'm starting to wonder if you're educated enough to have this conversation.
And so, because of all of this, Professor Flowers now exists as a character in the debate bro canon. The crazy black separatist lady that hates white people and loves genocide, and any and all subsequent harassment and content made at her expense is therefore totally justified under the pretense that, well, we saw her true colors in that debate, so she deserves it. Bad, 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 very bad, very bad, bad. Whenever Vaush hears people describe what he does as enabling harassment, he responds with this.
There's a whole narrative about my community harassing people, but in spite of nearly 3 years of trying to track down the people actually doing this, I've yet to be provided a single piece of evidence of it actually happening. Usually the initial claim is some very severe, Vaush community, harassing, like really bad stuff, right? But then I get some screenshots, and it's usually people just being kind of mean, which I'm fine with. I don't have a problem with people being mean to people I don't like.
Okay, if you deliberately mischaracterize someone as being in favor of ethnostates and genocide,
it's ethnic cleansing
to your massive audience, how on earth does this not enable harassment? Like, he's convinced hundreds of thousands of people that literal Hitler is on Twitter, and you can tweet at them. And not only that, but you should, because, he's fine with his fans being mean to people he doesn't like. It's as if he's deliberately trying to miss the point of why what he does is a problem. The response here is especially bizarre if we watch how Non-Compete brought this issue to his attention right before that last clip of Vaush's denial.
What I've noticed, and a lot of people have noticed, is a pattern where whenever you talk about somebody who...
I don't know if I understand this comment. Hi, the Serfs. My mom told me this is Hassan at home. I'm not Hassan. Hassan is a much more famous and better looking streamer than myself. You'll notice probably the facial hair and the smaller head.
Is, shall we say, marginalized, black.
Oh, it's a meme. Oh, like DiGiorno kind of thing. Or that we're not. Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Because I have a super ego from being a successful streamer, that doesn't register with me. Okay. I don't take any kind of jokes. All right. Like, why hasn't this person been banned 50 times from our chat? That's all I'm going to say. God damn it. Home brand is on. What?
Or trans or person of color.
Like, I think most people are so infatuated with Hassan that they'd probably still consider that to be like the supreme compliment. You'd be like, oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be known as Hassan at home.
There's a tendency for those people to receive a lot of kind of like after effect collateral damage in terms of harassment, threats, and other kinds of like, you know, disturbing attacks like that. Now, I've seen it happen with Luna because I'm married to her. We spend all of our time together. I monitor, I help her administrate her comments and that sort of thing. And I also know other people who have shown me similar results, you know. So I guess my first question is, are you aware of that, or would you deny that that's something that happens?
I think I'd mostly deny it.
Non-compete is being pretty reasonable here, right? Just trying to draw attention to a problem that he's seen firsthand that's actively harming marginalized people. That's directly correlated with Vaush's actions. And Vaush is just like, nope, not me, not my problem. None of this is my responsibility.
Yeah, I'll agree with this critique, because I think ultimately, yeah, if what your audience is doing is going after specific people because you have battled with them or whatever the case may be, and then if they're not doing it directly related to the talking points at hand, if they're just attacking them for personal reasons, then yeah, I mean, you should, as a streamer, you should be calling that out, or at least telling your audience, like, yeah, no, we're not like that. That's not what we do. We're come on, everybody, we're better than that, okay? We're the cozy gang. Don't listen to all these weird people who tell you that we're the piss gang or something else like that. They're liars. They're liars. Okay. At the end of the day, we're the cozy gang. Don't listen to it.
Am I overstepping by saying that this is bad? Bad, very bad, very bad. Related to the issue of the nature of harassment from these spaces is their crusade against identity politics. On multiple occasions, the first thing that comes to Vaush's mind as a potential motivation for people wanting to defend Professor Flowers is that they are doing so because she's black, or caving to identity politics.
There are a bunch of directions you can go in this. I do think a lot of people on the left are just castrated whiteys or whatever, who just refuse to disagree with women of color. I can only see this same pattern so many times, where like some woman comes out with some insane shit and people defend them or whatever.
This is what Xanderhal references when he calls supporting Professor Flowers wanting to look woke.
We're black people and we want segregation. That is not woke.
Amazing stuff that we're dealing with here. It's just really strange to me that this is the first and seemingly only reason that they could think of as to why people would want to side with her, and not that maybe in her videos she made good points that were well researched and provided more information on these topics than anything that could have ever come from that nightmare of a debate. Points that, had they actually listened to, would have answered all of their stupid fucking questions.
Hey now.
Perfectly valid inquiries.
Okay.
But I guess actually listening to her would mean no more content for them, so never mind.
Hey.
I mean, their content is heavily reliant on drama, and miscommunications can feed into drama, so listening and understanding are both actively discouraged in this online debate space, and that's something which we should try to change.
Better.
By putting all debate streamers in prison.
God damn it.
That's satire, by the way. Abolish the prison industrial complex. Except keep it open for debate streamers only.
Oh my god.
Like, okay, sure. I could see some people jumping to the conclusion that Vaush was in the wrong without really engaging with the content of the debate. They click on the video, see this shouty white devil's advocate style individual and a black lady, and click off to write a mean tweet about how Vaush bad. That probably does happen. I'm sure sometimes even because of internalized racism or whatever. But that explanation can only go so far. Again, I'm thinking using debate bro brain here, but in the same way that Vaush is waiting on proof of his fans' harassment, I have yet to see substantial evidence that the people siding with Professor Flowers are doing so just because she's black. If it's there, someone please show it to me. Quantify your claims. That's your guys' whole thing, right? Until that happens though, it seems like a huge leap in logic to be making, especially given the content of her responses. And it strikes me as, at least ostensibly, quite racist, especially when, thanks to Vaush, this whole anti-identity politics crusade is being waged by leftists all across the internet, in places where it has no right to be. For example, on January 9th, I tweeted this screenshot of one of Vaush's YouTube videos, where he reviews an introductory lesson on dialectical materialism from Vietnamese communist YouTuber Luna Oi. His video is titled, "This is the stupidest tanky video I have ever seen. Brain damage suffered." The point of my tweet was to say that this title was unnecessarily inflammatory, especially given the content of the video, which is a point that I stand by. But take a moment to look at this reply to my tweet.
Is there an actual problem here, or are we just gallantly coming to the rescue of the helpless and vulnerable female POC?
Like, yep, You got it. That's the only reason. It couldn't possibly be because he called a benign theory video brain damage inducing. You are so smart. I must be one of those circumcised whites or whatever Vaush called them.
Castrated whiteys.
Here's another exchange from this week. A Vaush fan tweets, Professor Flowers advocated for allowing genocide on colonizers. Someone replies, no, she didn't, because she didn't. This person then responds with,
anytime any person of color says anything remotely disagreeable, we're supposed to shut up?
Nope, no one is saying that. Literally no one is saying that. You are just saying that out of nowhere, and it feels kind of racist, man, not gonna lie. In these people's minds, whenever someone defends a person of color that disagrees with Vaush, they're obviously only doing it because they want to look woke, or score points with those Twitter tankies, or doing self-loathing crimes, or whatever. Because why else would they disagree with Vaush? The possibility that he can be wrong doesn't seem to cross their minds. You can see this response in his chat anytime anyone mentions that someone is of racialized or marginalized status.
Inpol.
Vaush and his orbiters have made it a part of the brand to value argument over identity. And while that concept on its face isn't a bad thing, it has clearly grown into a problem where the automatic tendency of his viewers is to write off the perspectives of marginalized communities, not in spite of their race, but because of it. So my call to action in this section is please deprogram whatever it is in your brain that makes you say shit like this before even reading what anyone is saying. Thanks. Also, stop watching debate streams. Okay, thanks, bye. So I've said most of what I feel like I've needed to say, but I want to take a moment to look at something I found that was interesting to me at the end of Vaush's
Mixed level lamp lock,
in this clip, Vaush is frustrated by the online left's apparent failings in who they choose to support. It's a long clip, so it's just a long clip. It's just a long clip.
The thing that really weirds me out, and like I hope this doesn't get misinterpreted, but like I follow a lot of small lefty YouTubers and streamers. Like I try to pay attention to like smaller communities so that I don't get too in my head. And there are so many awesome like POC creators who get like no attention, you know? And then it feels like the ones that the online left always jumps to support are the worst ones, you know? It's really weird. Like I very rarely see like these big like jumps to the support of like the really cool ones. Not even people in my orbit or whatever, just generally cool creators. Like how many times has this happened? Mel, Luna, Professor Flowers, stuff like that. It feels like whenever the jump happens, I don't know how much of this is like performative self-hatred or what.
The three people that Vaush mentions the online left wrongfully jumping to defend are Professor Flowers, Luna Oi, and Chaos Ismail. There's a common factor between the three of them that I don't believe he recognized here. It's not just that the three of them are small POC creators and online figures, it's that all of their most visible online moments have been fights with Vaush. They've debated him or critiqued him in videos, on Twitter, or live.
Oh, I'll push back there because I think Chaos's Mel has been having Twitter battles and fights well before she debated Vaush.
On stream. They have challenged his standing in the space in one way or another, and whether or not you personally agree with their positions or ideas, leftists jumping to defend them surely can't all be doing so because they want to look woke, right? Like, go watch any of these videos and come back and tell me if you don't find any issues with the way he conducts himself. Online interactions are complicated, yes, and Vaush can't be blamed for everything that goes wrong with them, but it's just dishonest to act like there's no pattern here. And so you might notice that based on how he is frame this phenomenon, with Luna, Mel, and Professor Flowers being the online left's non-white false prophets, something else is implied. In the same way that they are all connected by having challenged Vaush, the small POC creators are connected by not doing that. I don't mean to suggest that this is intentional, that they're playing nice for a host or a raid or whatever, but this still begs the question. If any of them were to end up fighting with Vaush on the big stage, as Professor Flowers, Luna Oi, and Mel did, and have it go the way these interactions went, would he still hold them in the same regard? If the online left jumped to defend them, would it be another case of the id-pull Twitter lefties conspiring against him? Would they then become the worst ones?
The worst ones.
The irony here is that when someone in the chat asks him for the actual names of the smaller, underappreciated POC creators he's talking about, this is how he responds.
Want to name some of the cool ones you're thinking of? I should do a list. I'll do a list. I'll do a list sometime. I could pull that together. I need to find a way to access my old like Twitch stuff though, because my Twitch account got deleted, you know. So.
He doesn't mention them for the rest of that video. This isn't meant to be a gotcha. This is firstly to say, Vaush, if you're watching this right now on stream, have you made the list yet? If not, you now have my permission to pause and do that, and then share it with your stream, and refill your nuggies, and pay me some money. Seriously. Cash. I need cash. Gimme.
Promote Car. Car's awesome.
But more importantly, I
and
feel
St.
like this
Andrewism,
is another
also
more
awesome.
subtle example of the way white supremacy operates online. Vaush says that he enjoys all these POC creators' work as a counterpoint to dunk on the people that disagree with him. But when it comes time to actually do the thing that would help them the most, he fails. This might seem like a trivial thing, and perhaps he has mentioned them on his stream before. I don't know, I can't watch every minute of every one, but they aren't mentioned here when there's a perfect opportunity to do so. And I don't think it's reading too far into it to say that this might say something about his understanding of the space. If you truly recognize how much more difficult it is to make it as a content creator when you're not white, from the racially biased algorithm to the majority white audience demographics to the material conditions necessary to enable you to even attempt creating content in the first place.
I mean, it's called Wonder Bread Tube for a reason. Oh no, can I say that? Is Twitch gonna roast me or toast me for that one?
Then you should be taking every opportunity to fight against these forces, especially when you get an easy alley-oop like that from your chat. This sort of built-in racial gatekeeping of LeftTube by Vaush and others is something that I don't think gets talked about enough. They have deemed this their movement, and in order to be a part of it, you have to play by their rules. If you don't, you're gonna end up fighting a tidal wave of debate bros in your Twitter mentions and comment sections for the entirety of your potentially short-lived career. This is not good or healthy or inclusive. Speaking of which, at the beginning when Xanderhal responds to that comment about black creators, he also doesn't actually even read that list. He saw the name of a black creator he doesn't like and then started foaming at the fucking mouth.
I'm so glad you brought this up!
Just leftist things. The names on that list were Khadija Umbo, FD Signifier, Shanspeare, Foreign Man in a Foreign Land, Yara Zaid, and T Noir. You're probably already subscribed to most of the people on that list.
Everyone but Yara Zaid.
Like 3 times my size, but I do want to give a special shout out to Foreign. He's genuinely one of the funniest people on here, and if you're not subbed to him, well, you're missing out. Get this man to 100k 1000 or I will go sicko mode, and no, I will not elaborate on what I mean by that. Also, Foreign and I will be doing a music jam session live stream this weekend, 11 a.m. Pacific time. Be there or be cringe. With this last point, I should be very clear that this problem is not unique to Vaush or even Debate Bros. As a matter of fact, in this video here, where Lefty streamer Shark300 talks with FD Signifier about Break Bread, Shark mentions that he's only ever been promoted by a video essayist once. This is in contrast with the numerous times that the streaming community has promoted him. People like Lance from the Serfs or the Humanist Report, and even some of our Debate Bro besties like Xanderhal and Vaush. This problem is much bigger than any individual.
You know what's funny? Let's be real. There's things that you could have included in me to be called out in this video. Like, no, there's no Saint Lance. I have been guilty of debate bro shit in the past as well, so I could have easily been included. So the fact that I avoided the guillotine and got noticed for one thing, I guess Noah has already called me out in prior videos for that stuff. So maybe that's why he was like, okay, I'll give Lance a pass this time. You know?
Or group, let alone any faction of the online left content creation space. But I don't think it hurts to start by pointing out structures that seem to be actively fighting against inclusivity. Structures like the format of online debate content or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm so tired, man. Let's get to the conclusion. Do I think Vaush is racist? What does answering that question solve? There's nothing that Vaush has said about or...
Classic debate tactic. Classic. Won't answer a direct question. Fucking yeah, of course. Says he's not down with debate bros. Then debate bros out, Noah. Yeah, I'm calling you out. There. We call that one a pivot. That's what just... You're pivoting. Yeah, that's right. Are you going to move the goalpost next? We'll see.
Done to Professor Flowers that his followers, orbiters, and vulturistic little underlings,
hey, don't be a dick,
most of whom are self-described leftists, haven't been ready to accept more or less
strawman at home, steelman
spread across the internet. The fact that
no true Scotsman, no true Scotsman.
So little pushback in a space that considers itself the left should be concerning to all of us. No amount of charity streams, Shapiro dunks, or leftist creator platform growth will make up for the fact that white supremacy is the default. It is the status quo, and unless we are challenging challenging it in all places and at all times, then we are playing a role in sustaining it. After the Professor Flowers debate, Vaush brought on the Indigenous activist Morgan Khashoggi to talk about land back, a conversation which I've mentioned throughout this video. It is an objectively good thing that he did this, as she was able to educate him and his audience about that movement. But the thing is, this only happened as a direct response to the Professor Flowers debate. The upload came days after the debate and served primarily to reinforce to himself and his audience that he had won. If you think I'm being cynical there, then
Whoa, I gotta correct that one. I think she was emailing him. I remember them talking about that.
I would just ask you this. Why is that conversation the first and only time he's ever spoken with an Indigenous activist on his stream, and only one of the 2 videos out of the
That's also not true. Well, anyways, sorry.
1,241 that he's posted on his channel that even mentions the issue of land back. Once again, we see the structure of online white supremacy, co-opting indigenous and non-white perspectives when it serves him, but leaving them out for the rest of the time. I don't see what's happened here as being the product of malicious actions of individuals. Rather, I would define the source as a flawed system of knowledge creation, upheld by individuals who...
Wilco speaking some truth here. I do not believe in essentializing any of you. There's a reactionary within all of us. True, white lefties have to contend with a white reactionary within themselves every time the marginalized group upon us brings concerns for our safety and progress through an intersectional lens. And I was going to address something related to that near the end of this.
Who are unable to recognize those flaws due to their own unchallenged biases, homogenous environments, and stagnant consumption habits. Only one of those definitions allows us to actually address the problem. Well, there's probably other ways, but that last one sounded good when I wrote it and sounded horrible when I said it out loud. With that being said, stop watching debate content. Seriously, just stop. I was going to add the caveat that it's okay to do if you're doing it strictly for entertainment purposes. But even then, if you're doing that, you're supporting a system that encourages individualistic domination and has repeatedly resulted in the sustained harassment of racialized creators. Inpol. I know you're not...
But wait, what if a debate bro got destroyed for being a debate bro? What if the topic was debate bros themselves? Curious.
Not gonna listen, and that's fine, but that is my final prescription on the matter. If you don't want to do that though, then at the very least it's probably a good idea that you follow and listen to more non-white, non-Western creators, especially if people like Vaush are talking about them like this.
I'm starting to wonder if you're...
Noah, address this. Oh, this is the link you sent me earlier, Kubi, sorry. As I said in my conversation with Vaush, it was a mistake to characterize her participation in the way that I did. My broader point, though, was much of that she critiqued Professor Flowers for could also be attributed to the format of the debate itself, inflammatory reductionism. Okay. There's been a retraction.
Educated enough to have this conversation.
That's a good sign that maybe something is missing from the analysis. Perhaps a perspective. Sorry for the id poll. Sorry for existing. But also I should be clear that coming into non-debate spaces with debate bro brain can cause issues. So I'm sentencing you all to a mandatory 3-month period of viewing this content without interacting before you jump into any comment sections in devil's advocate mode. I mentioned this video before, but I want to highlight this again because it's an example of a way that creators can be a part of the solution. The streamer Shark300 has a video on his channel where, after criticizing FD's Break Bread live on his stream, FD showed up in the chat and asked if he could call in to discuss. And they ended up talking it out, and it turned into a really good conversation. They were able to find some common ground and better understand the perspective of either side of the debate essayist rift. Now, this isn't always a possibility. Some environments are more hostile than others, but whenever stuff like this happens, it shows me that this problem is not terminal. There are good people on here trying their best to learn and understand each other, and that gives me hope. I would like to foster a space where we can all grow and share ideas and perspectives, and I think it's possible, but debate content is antithetical to this goal if it is being taken as a serious form of inquiry, which it clearly is by many. So stop it. Please stop. I haven't talked about this publicly anywhere, but one of the things that started all of this was when I posted my LeftTube guide. In that video, I promoted both Professor Flowers and Vaush because I liked both of their content. And when it blew up, Vaush fans ended up reaching her channel and her Twitter, where she had criticized them before, and I think that's partly what prompted her first response video. So I've watched all of this happen with one foot on either side of the divide, having a new influx of viewers and supporters, many of whom were Vaush fans, while simultaneously watching what they were doing and how it was hurting people. I was a small content creator, still not that confident in my ability to articulate why what was happening bothered me so much. I've attempted this script roughly once a month since September, but I was never able to find the right words or had what I felt like was the right opportunity. But then Xanderhal went and said that dumb shit.
Noah Samson's a fucking idiot.
And I'm glad he did, because it kicked my repression brain back into gear to be able to make this. And it's especially funny given that Xanderhal is the reason I'd found Professor Flowers in the first place, all the way back in August, through a video response she made to him, where he was, you guessed it, saying more dumb shit.
I think that a leftist who used to be a reactionary and is now progressive is a more effective leftist than someone who's been a leftist their whole lives. I will die on that hill. And you know why? It's because people who used to be alt-righters, people who used to be Nazis, they heard all the arguments, all the beliefs that Nazis and alt-righters have. And in the end, they still realized it was all wrong.
Do you think that we haven't?
So it feels very full circle, you know? Never change, buddy. Debate bro, lol cow, destroyed once again in the marketplace of Joe Mama. I'm joking, by the way. Please don't take any of this seriously. If you think political content creator beef is interesting in any capacity, you need to go outside. But first, stop watching debate streams. Stop it. Stop. Anyways, that's it, everyone. Hope you liked it. Sorry if it was a bit harsh at points, but you know, I just tried to be honest. So now that I've said all that I need to say, I can finally retire from Debate Bros discourse for real this time. And you have no idea how happy that makes me. I'm free at last. I am willing to come on to any streams to discuss specific disagreements with claims that I made in this video, but make a list with timestamps and have it ready or I will leave the call. Other than that, leave me alone forever. Thanks.
Wait, did you just end with saying that you would debate your own Debate Bro stream? No, you want to discuss the points. I understand that. Hey, I need good faith, Gary, a little bit more, okay? I'm being bad faith here.
One more thing. There's currently about 100,000 people in Hawaii whose water supply has been poisoned with jet fuel by the US Navy and their Red Hill fuel storage facility.
On November 28th, Sunday, it definitely smelled like I was in a gas station pumping my gas in my car. That's how I knew something was wrong.
Not only is the Navy refusing to do anything about this, but they are actively sweeping the problem under the rug by lying about further water contamination, and just a few days ago filing a counter lawsuit to keep the reserves open after the state of Hawaii ordered them shut down. This has been years in the making, but people first started getting sick in December, just 3 months ago, and now no mainstream sources are covering it. Please click the first link in the description of this video. It'll take you to a webpage with instructions on writing a letter to the Department of Defense. They've made it pretty straightforward, and there are templates and talking points. Talk about this with the people around you, share that link, and follow Oahu Water Protectors on Twitter to stay up to date with everything going on. It's a mass poisoning of indigenous people and land by an imperialist military power, and we don't like that on this channel. All right. Thank you so much to my patrons, as always. I'll try to be faster at videos, but brain. So I'm going to close the video out by playing this little song that I made with clips from the beginning. You might have seen it. I tweeted it. It's not supposed to be beef. It's just, I think it's funny and catchy and fun. And yeah, okay. Bye.
By colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white. By colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white. Colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white. Yeah. Dog whistle for white. Okay. Castrated whiteys.
If anyone says Vaush is wrong, they're defending genocide. If anyone says Vaush is wrong, they're defending genocide. Damn. I have no problem with black creators getting really big.
Oh, I do love sampling that one line, castrated whiteys.
However,
whiteys who just refuse to disagree with women of color.
You're either anti-genocide or pro-woke genocide. You're either pro-genocide or
castrated whiteys.
You're either anti-genocide or pro-woke genocide. If anyone says Vaush is wrong, they're defending genocide.
Noah Samson, the coward doesn't seem to care. Doesn't seem to care. Castrated whitey.
I have no problem with black creators getting really big. However, FD signifier is a dumb fuck. What? Hassan Piker is an idiot. Hassan Piker is not very good at defending his positions. What? I have no problem with black creators getting really big. However,
castrated. By colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white. By colonizer, I'm using it as a dog whistle for white. There are a lot of people of color who believe that black liberation is going to come by ostracizing white people from the movement.
That was sus. Mommy milkers.
You goddamn Zoomers with your zooming and all your silly Zoomerall. I do want to say one thing, and this is not going to be like, don't worry, a huge pushback in defense of Debate Bro streamers coming up. I remember No Name made a tweet a while back about, and I'm going to be paraphrasing here, but about how people, white activists in leftist spaces, need to discuss more issues or discuss things about dealing with things within white circles. And it got called out quite a bit. A lot of people were saying like this is like, you know, woke segregation or whatever it be. I think it is. I think it, like, her comments were actually important. I think they were misinterpreted, and I think it is something that needs to be discussed within, you know, white leftist spaces, whatever you want to call them, about calling out either bad behavior or making people more aware of a lot of these issues. The problem is, and this has been my experience with this issue, as well as my own personal, I guess, struggles when having certain things taught to me, is that human beings shut down very easily and very quickly sometimes, especially when they feel like they're being criticized. Like if you're having a conversation with someone and you want to bring up to them, hey, by the way, I wouldn't mind discussing with you a little bit about why it is more beneficial to be vegan. And all of a sudden they're like, what, are you calling me some kind of like an animal genocider or something like that? It's like, no, I'm not calling you anything bad. I'm just saying that it would actually be healthier for you if you ate vegan on a regular basis. It's actually better for the environment. Our entire, industrial scale slaughtering of animals is a very cruel one. I'm sure if you saw the way we treat animals would be really bad. And then all of a sudden it gets to that point where the other person is like, I don't want to listen to any of this because you're calling me an asshole. And I'm not an asshole. I don't like feeling like an asshole. So I don't like this conversation. I don't like what we're talking about. And I find that happens a lot when people try to discuss these issues, especially issues related to, let's say, a topic like white supremacy. And this goes back to me originally talking about like why I don't call someone a colonizer, right? Like why I'm not like, hey, by the way, you're a colonizer and you're actively colonizing right now, unless you stand in defense of the following like 27 protocols that I'm going to state right now, and unless you come out in favor of all of them, then yes, you are an active colonizer and you are directly contributing towards this. And the person's like, I don't want to fucking talk to you, Lance, you weirdo. This is a Wendy's. Like, this is actually literally a Wendy's. You're in the middle of placing your order. Stop calling me a colonizer and fucking tell me what kind of a burger you want, kind of shit. So in that sense, I'm not saying that anyone has to wear baby gloves. You don't. I think people have to get a lot of the messaging correct, especially if you're advocating for things. And this is a self call out. Okay. I've run into this so many times where I've come into something thinking, hey, by the way, I'm now going to advocate on the behalf of whatever. And I think I know a lot about this topic. So here we go. I'm about to talk about this kind of thing. And then afterwards, people walk away from it being like, well, yeah, you're not actually winning in the hearts and minds of anyone if you're just calling them, blah, 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 X problem or X whatever. Because ultimately, there is a distinct difference between telling someone, hey, by the way, you're a colonizer. You're literally a colonizer. You're Christopher Columbus manifest. That's what you are. You arrived here, and then you've been enslaving people and you've been genociding people, and shame on you. And you didn't realize it this whole time, just by virtue of the fact of you are white. And you're like, I'm not white. Okay, well, I stand corrected. I still should place my order. This Wendy's thing is taking a very long time. Whereas it's a lot more difficult to actually have a discussion or a conversation, and maybe even people might find it a little bit boring. Maybe this is a little bit too theory, to talk about how colonization is an ongoing process, to talk about the structures of white supremacy, to talk about white supremacy, not in the sense that most people think of white supremacy, and that a white supremacist is only someone who believes in the superiority of the Aryan race, and they feel that all of the races are inferior. And if you don't think that, which, most modern people and normies do not think that, right? They won't think that the world in those terms. Then they're like, what more do I need to talk about? Why are we even having this conversation? Why do we need to talk about white supremacy? I'm not a white supremacist. I'm not. What are we talking about? All right. What's the best way for me to enter this conversation then? And that's something that I'm personally consistently trying to work on myself for, to find out, because I have found in my travels, for what my online experience is, that it is much better. Like, the reason I called into Dr. Heem's show after Dr. Heems had spoken to Professor Flowers is I wanted Dr. Heem and then his audience to understand simply that the concept of land back is not in any way comparable or comparable to someone wanting an ethno-state or someone wanting a situation. Like, there are no land back advocates right now, and this is not on the fault of Professor Flowers. This is a fault in people on this messaging getting suddenly misconstrued, that land back implies that indigenous people who want to have control over their sovereign territory, that means immediately that all non-indigenous people will be kicked off of that land immediately and then put to wherever they belong. They must go back to, I don't know, Europe or something like that. And no land back advocate would ever say something like that or even advocate for something like that. Like, there are times when land back victories occur on land that is already densely populated. And I think the spokesman who was on Vaush's show does a really good job of doing that in a very calm and respectful manner, and saying that this means that you are no longer able to extract resources from this plot of land without the consultation of the people who control the land. In this case, it would be Indigenous people if they have received a land-backed settlement of some kind. And I know that gets pushed back from other sides who are saying, well, what are you just trying to create some weird like class of bourgeois natives or something like that? And that is also very misguided. It's very paternalistic to say that Indigenous people should now have to follow the rules of being strictly anti-capitalist and create some kind of like, I don't know, Chaz anarchist commune on their lands. Otherwise, we can't even entertain the idea of land back, because heaven forbid they might actually build apartments on that land and become landlords. So that would be just too capitalist for my liking. So no, in the interim, we will not advocate for land back. We're going to advocate for something else, like land reform or something of that nature. And again, you can see already how all the talk and the messaging is just getting destroyed in the process. Whereas like all I want someone to do is to be able to understand that this is not only going to be beneficial to the environment, it's going to be the just thing. It's something that should have happened because of the titles and treaties that were already signed. And at the end of the day, it is probably going to be in the best interest for the long-term sustainability of the environment. Because yes, it turns out that land-backed defenders do a better job of defending or preserving the ecological systems that live in an environment than people who are just there to drill in oil pipelines and stuff of that nature. So that's where a really big problem can come in. I don't believe 100% that every single person who does debates, like, I don't think there's no person who only does debates, like from the moment they turn on the stream, they just debate until the stream turns off. Like debates are probably going to be interwoven into their content. It's going to be React Andy, and then I have a debate coming up at 2 p.m. and then after that I'm going to be doing this and I'm going to be doing that. But I don't think that every single quote unquote debate bro is like above any kind of change, or they're never going to be able to make a change. I've seen it happen before. And on that same note, I don't think anyone should be above criticism, like, or accepting criticism. Like rather than looking at maybe criticism or someone does a video essay on you or something like that as simply being standoffish, or simply being like, you know, this is simply drama bait, nothing more. When we walk away from this, what are you going to do? Are you going to make a response video? Or are we going to debate live? This one will promote you. Like there should be on some, like, this issue is a broader issue too. I know I'm rambling right now. This is Kishgal Plants. Yes, logical fallacies all over the place. But this broader issue of call out culture versus cancel culture, like, it's a healthy thing for people to be like, you know what? Your take was dog shit. I'm going to be honest with you. Lance, your take was dog shit. Your take was dog shit. Here's why it was dog shit. Maybe you should learn more. Maybe you should go read a little bit on this topic. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong. And you know what? There will be times when maybe my ego or whatever gets in the way, and I'm just like, flimshaw. I won't listen to this criticism. But hopefully it gets normalized. And I don't just mean this for streamers. I mean this for humanity. It gets normalized that someone can say, hey, by the way, that's actually just not correct, and or your take might be misguided. It comes from a place of wanting to help. So hey, here's a little bit of information. We can take it in. We can better ourselves, we can grow, and at the same time, we won't shame any single person who's had a bad take in the past for whatever reason, because everyone has had bad takes. No one is above the bad take fray. Everyone has made bad takes, and everyone will have bad takes. I know people, we've joked about this before. Is there a perfect take person where they've been infinitely flawless? You know? One single person. I'll wait. Yes? Who? Cornel West? I bet if we went through Cornel... Wait. I know Cornel West's one bad take. I got it here. And this comes as the biggest Cornel West fan ever. It's going to be really easy to find because I think he's pinned it on his Twitter account. It's at the very top. Here it is, Jimmy Dore. Proud to be on this journey with you. What a blessing to talk to another free brother who speaks his mind. He's a justice-loving artist, Jimmy Dore. We are proud members of the Advisory Council of the People's Party, founded by brother Nick Brana. There you go. There's the one bad take by Cornel West. There you go. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong, internet. But people were saying Sam Cedar, and I was like you hope to find someone who has mostly really good takes, right? Mostly, and I would put Sam Cedar into that camp, but he's not above the fray. Like, didn't Sam Cedar just say like the N-word with a hard R like a year and a half ago or something like that? And yes, it was in context, I guess, if you want to put it that way. He was saying what someone else had said and repeating it out loud, you know. There was the rape joke. Sam got all tactical. But anyways, that's my point. Is that every single person is not going to be above the fray. So like the idea that someone who was once shitty cannot be changed, that I don't believe in. I believe in there should be an open door for everyone to make change, but everyone should understand what that means, okay? Being in the past an alt-righter, that should not be a career jumping point. That, like, you shouldn't look at that like, hey, someone used to be in the alt-right, but now they're not, and now they're going to become whatever, a content producer. That shouldn't be like a selling point for them as a content producer. That should be an opportunity for someone to learn and grow, and afterwards be like, yeah, okay, there's so much more I want to discover about the world, and then go on. Like, I don't distinctly agree with the fact that, like, you know, maybe an ex-alt writer will make a more progressive leftist, and I also don't agree with the take that, like, anyone who used to have shitty or terrible, like, takes in the past can't grow, because every single person can, and we will all continue to make bad takes. I'm sorry, I've probably made a couple in the middle of this rant, you know.
Do you enjoy the Serfs but prefer not to have to use your eyeballs? Many are saying this. Well, we've got the solution for you. It's the Serf Times in podcast form, available on most major podcasting networks now. If you enjoy it, please consider leaving a good review and feedback, because it really helps the show out, apparently, and it's free, just like the podcast.
To our gods, Xander Corvus and Peyton L. Just, we beseech thee to smite down our enemies. To our monarch, Tom Spiker, we are but your humble court jesters, here to amuse you. To our lords, Trevor R., we give thanks for this spit of land for us to eke out this meager existence. To our knights, Merid, Cheryl Alvarez, Ruby Kelly, Ellie Leslie, Alex P., Brandon, Words Greenwood, Nate, that one guy, Hagbird Celine, Matthew Scarborough, Stellar Vision, Ariane McCarthy, Daniel Sutton, Coulter Smith, Val 9000, Jenna Tall, Quiet 185, Anna Loves Riley, Omni, Riley and Anna, Poodlehawk, The Tim Caucus, Multi Mondi, Trevor Yanis, Lemmy 101, Anthropophojack, Cern 42, Catherine, Radical Maniac, Ramon Acosta, Nkosin, Violent Orchard, Sophie Baby, Political Puppy, Andreas Chiringuito, Zach Christensen, Josh Mickelson, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. We raise our flag in a veil, and we salute you, our friends.